Everyone in Hancock is going crazy. Seeing the thousands of Warcraft legions bowing to Lin Yan in front of him, he was stammering and speechless for a moment. The rest of the people had similar reactions. Brother Lin. You? Fisher Tiger also looked like he couldn't believe it, staring blankly at the scene in front of him. You know, these are all beasts, and there are quite a few Sea Kings among them. As we all know, Sea Kings are absolutely impossible to tame. Except for Poseidon, who only exists in legend and is not known to exist at all, there are only two ways for anyone to encounter Sea Kings. Expel or kill. It is basically common knowledge that these monsters in the deep sea cannot be tamed. Even the top experts in this world cannot do such a thing. It's just a one-time consumable, so there's no need to be so surprised, right? Seeing everyone's shocked expressions, Lin Yan smiled lightly. Compared to the power given to Iron Dragon, the cost of transforming these monsters this time was even less than 1/10. After all, this is a reckless transformation. By stimulating their life potential, Lin Yan transforms these monsters into powerful disposable items. It looks very mighty. But even if we leave it alone, all the monsters here will die naturally in just a few months. In Lin Yan's opinion, such a change is simply not worth mentioning. Even so, it's shocking enough. I really don't know how many secrets you still have hidden, Brother Lin. After listening to Lin Yan's explanation, the three of them breathed a sigh of relief. It would be really terrible if such power could be used at will. Of course, the three of them didn't know that Lin Yan could actually do it, but he just didn't want to spend too much money on these beasts. But even so, Fisher Tiger couldn't help but patted Lin Yan on the shoulder and sighed. In this way, Nine Snake Island can be defended, right? Fisher Tiger had a relaxed smile on his face. Although he didn't show it on the surface these days, he had been very nervous. The reason is also very simple. Because this time Nine Snake Island is facing the entire world government. Even if we say we are enemies of the world, that's pretty much it. One can imagine what kind of pressure everyone will face next. The thousands of powerful monsters in front of him undoubtedly gave Fisher Tiger a shot in the arm. It was also the first time that he was full of confidence in guarding Nine Snakes Island. Even Ain and Hancock on the other side had smiles on their faces. Looking at the three people, Lin Yan smiled softly. Didn't I say it a long time ago? Even if the sky falls, there will still be tall people who can bear it, and those scum of the world government have nothing to be afraid of. When saying this, Lin Yan's tone was full of strong confidence. Damn world nobles, authority is worth mentioning. Power is everything. The strong is respected, which is a universal rule no matter in which world it is. Even the world government, which has ruled the world for 800 years, cannot escape from this rule. Besides, looking at something lying quietly in his warehouse, Lin Yan showed an expectant smile on his face. He doesn't mind teaching the world government a lesson he will never forget. Just like Marie Joy's more than 10 years ago. Okay, in short, the preparations here are complete. Hancock, the next thing will be left to you. Let the warriors of Nine Snake Island get familiar with fighting side by side with the Warcraft as soon as possible. Only you can do this. Thinking about it, Lin Yan withdrew his gaze, looked at Hancock and said seriously. Of course, the girl had no objection to this and nodded her head heavily. Put it on me. 1 month later, Calm Belt, the waters near Nine Snake Island. Marshal, we are almost reaching our destination. The then Marine Vice Admiral Momasagi walked onto the deck and looked at Akainu, who was standing on the bow of the warship, reporting the report, with a solemn look in his eyes. She was also one of the participants in the last buster call to hunt down Aokiji. To be honest, she still has lingering fears. That man who is like a god. Is it really something that can be defeated? From time to time, Momasagi always asks herself this. If possible, she would not want to face that monster at all, but she is also a marine, and obeying orders is the bounden duty of a soldier. Therefore, Momasagi had no choice but to suppress his anxiety and board the warship as ordered. How's it going at Shichibukai? After hearing Momasagi's report, Akainu narrowed his eyes slightly, without any change in the expression on his face, as if he asked casually. But Momasagi shuddered a little when he saw Akainu like this. To be honest, she didn't like the man in front of her at all. Many people in Marine had similar thoughts to her. When Akainu was enforcing justice, what he did was too extreme. Since a long time ago, the man in front of him has always had a poor reputation in Marine. But Momasagi feels that Akainu has become more terrifying now. If I had to describe it, if the previous Akainu was a mad dog that bit people everywhere, then the current Akainu is the kind of dog that doesn't bite. This kind of talent is the most terrifying. It's business as usual over at Shichibukai. Keenly aware of the viciousness beneath Akainu's calm surface, Momoshagi hurriedly lowered his head to report. Humph, it's nothing more than a bunch of rabble. After all, we have to rely on our own strength. After hearing Momosagi's report, Akainu snorted with disdain. In his opinion, the 7 warlords of the sea are nothing more than a ragtag group of people. Although the strength is good, but when it comes to enforcing justice, those guys are not qualified at all. After all, they are just a group of pirates. From the beginning, Akainu had no intention of relying on their power. To enforce justice, you need to rely on your own partners after all. And if you think that the world government dares to come here without any trump card, then you are really naive, aren't you? The power of justice is absolute. Subconsciously, Akainu reached into his arms, and when he touched something hidden in his arms, a ferocious smile appeared on his face. As long as you have this thing, even you will definitely die without a burial place today. The entire 9 Snake Island will be destroyed today. Thinking of this, Akainu did not hesitate any longer. From now on, Buster Call officially starts. At the same time, on the other side, Lin Yan, Hancock and others had already noticed the movement and came to the beach outside 9 Snake Island together. At this moment, everyone on 9 Snake Island stands side by side with them. Lin Yanshu squinted his eyes, looked at the dense warships that had appeared on the horizon in the distance, and couldn't help but smile. This is really worth spending money on. There was no trace of nervousness on Lin Yan's face. Instead, he was full of interest and had a slightly sarcastic smile. I wonder how the 5 elders will react this time after Marine suffers heavy losses. If you can make 1 or 2 angry to death, that would be great. Brother Lin, is it really okay for you to still be smiling at this time? Fisher Tiger looked helplessly at the smiling Lin Yan beside him. It seemed that since he met the man in front of him, he had never seen any tension on Lin Yan's face. Maybe this is a hero. Fisher Tiger couldn't help but think so. What's the problem? You can't cry, right? Lin Yan looked at Fisher Tiger with something funny and said, and then turned his eyes to the 2 women beside him. I'm here to watch, so go ahead and get ready. I'm kind of looking forward to what these people's expressions will be then. Okay. X2 hearing this, Hancock and Ain also showed evil smiles on their faces, and then went down to prepare. Their trust in Lin Yan is absolute. I have unreserved trust in the man in front of me who can bring victory to 9 Snake Island. So from beginning to end, Fisher Tiger was the only one who was a little nervous. When the 3 of them left the coast, Lin Yan slowly calmed down his expression, glanced calmly at the approaching Buster Call, and then slowly levitated. Not long after, they arrived in front of Buster Call. Hey, everyone, should I say it's been a long time since we last seen each other? Especially you mad dog. What's wrong? Is this because the scar has healed and you have forgotten the pain? Lin Yan looked at the people in front of him with a mocking smile. Especially when he glanced at Akainu's broken arm, he was obviously a little gloating. When Akainu heard this, a trace of anger flashed across Jonin's face. But thinking about the fate that 9 Snake Island was about to face next, he quickly calmed down and showed a ferocious smile to Lin Yan. You can only use your words here. If you surrender now, I can still consider it. However, before Akainu finished speaking, Lin Yan waved his hand impatiently and interrupted him. Stop talking nonsense like this. You don't think you can defeat me just because of the people in front of you, do you? Lin Yan looked at Akainu with some disdain. Who gave you the courage to stand in front of me again? You are just a lost dog who escaped from my hands. You don't think you can still survive this time, do you? Arrogant. Akainu was originally an impulsive character, and when he was despised by Lin Yan, he naturally showed an angry look on his face immediately. At the same time, there is a hint of resentment and madness. Akainu grinned at Lin Yan. I admit that you are very powerful, but you are the only one here. Akainu had a crazy smile on his face. Can you protect the entire 9 Snakes Island by yourself? As he spoke, Akainu waved his hand. Fire the entire ship, target 9 Snake Island. Akainu. After hearing this order, Lin Yan didn't react at all. Momoshagi on the other side couldn't help but roared and looked at Akainu angrily. Are you going to give the same order a second time? Momosagi's body was shaking slightly. It was like this before on Second Island. Akainu didn't care about the lives of ordinary people at all. He chose to obey last time. Bear the torture of conscience, but this time. Oh? Do you think Momosagi Vice Admiral has any other ideas? Thinking that he had an absolute advantage this time, Akainu was not anxious at all. Instead, he looked at Momoshagi with interest and asked. As Marine Marshal, he doesn't mind telling the younger generation what justice is. Certainly. However, what Akainu didn't expect was that when faced with this question, Momoshagi nodded firmly. His gaze was as firm as a blade. Momoshagi took a deep breath. I have made mistakes before, but as a Marine, I will never allow such mistakes to happen a second time, if this is the justice I need to uphold. As he spoke, Momosagi's tone paused slightly. Then, he spoke very firmly. Marshal Sakazuki, before the bombardment, please allow me to go out to fight. This time, let alone Akainu, even Lin Yan showed a somewhat surprised expression. What's the meaning? Suicide. You must know that the current Momoshagi is just the strength of the Naval Headquarters Vice Admiral. Even Akainu and the others, who are admirals, have repeatedly fled in confusion under his hands, but Momoshagi plans to challenge him? Isn't this suicide? He didn't expect to see such a good show, so Lin Yan was not in a hurry. He looked at Momoshagi carefully and couldn't help laughing. You should know that this is completely suicide, right? Certainly. Momoshagi nodded calmly. First I'm Marine and you are a pirate. We have been enemies from the beginning. As a Marine, I also have my own responsibilities and missions. Responsibility. Hearing Momoshagi say such words, Lin Yan's expression paused slightly, and he seemed to understand what Momoshagi meant. Let me ask you, what are the responsibilities that a Marine must perform? For Momoshagi, nature means upholding justice and protecting civilians. So the problem becomes very simple. Akainu wants to bombard Kuja Island, so as long as he is eliminated, Kuja Island may have a chance to avoid disaster. This is the choice Momoshagi made. She once obeyed the order and allowed Akainu to bombard Seikan Island. Although there were no civilian casualties due to the failure in the end, Momoshagi also suffered from the reproach of conscience all the time. Being a Marine, maybe she had to. But as a person, Momoshagi doesn't want to do this. She doesn't agree with Akainu's so-called justice at all. And if you want to uphold your own justice, you must pay a price. Momoshagi will make his own choices just like he does now. In other words, Naval Headquarters Vice Admiral Momoshagi. This time, he has already realized that he will die. If he had to choose between justice, conscience and life, then Momoshagi would choose the former without hesitation. In order to protect this, she was willing to give up her life. Even if you may not be able to do anything in the end. That's it. What an amazing realization. Realizing this, Lin Yan looked at Momoshagi seriously and couldn't help but praise him. Momoshagi didn't seem to mean much nonsense. With a very determined expression on his pretty face, he slowly drew his sword towards Lin Yan. It's useless to talk more. Today you will live and die. Very well. I respect your choice. Seeing Momoshagi draw his sword and point it at him, Lin Yan's eyes completely lost the contempt, and instead nodded his head seriously. It's a matter of dignity and determination. This is the choice Momoshagi made before himself. Of course, Lin Yan will also respond. Drink. Seeing that Lin Yan didn't look down on him at all, Momoshagi narrowed his eyes with some satisfaction, and then rushed towards Lin Yan with a soft drink. With the awareness of mortality, of course, Momoshagi knew that he was no match for Lin Yan, but he still chose to use his life to defend the justice in his heart. The moment he drew his sword to fight, Momoshagi also looked at Lin Yan in front of him seriously. Actually, she didn't think the man in front of her was a bad person. As the Naval Headquarters Vice Admiral, Momoshagi had seen many dark pirates, but the look in the man's eyes was completely different from them. Confident, calm, and with good intentions. Maybe if Lin Yan was not a pirate and he was not a Marine, maybe they would become good friends. For a moment, Momoshagi actually sighed. However, what Momoshagi didn't know was that at a certain moment, Lin Yan's eyes suddenly moved away from her and looked at someone behind the girl with a trace of murderous intent. And at the same moment, Akainu also spoke with a ferocious smile. Open fire across the ship, meteor volcano. Boom. The next second, the overwhelming cannonballs and hot lava roared towards Momoshagi, or to be more precise, Lin Yan behind Momoshagi. Momoshagi turned his head in disbelief and looked at Akainu with a ferocious smile on the bow of the warship. Why? Under the lightning, Momoshagi only had time to ask softly, and the next second, he was drowned in firelight and thick smoke. Of course it's because you disobeyed orders. Then Momoshagi Vice Admiral, let's use your last remaining value. Akainu smiled ferociously. Determined to die? Giving up your life for ridiculous persistence? Really? Why are there so many idiots like this in Marine? Now that you have decided to sacrifice, then sacrifice it. But before that, you have to injure the powerful enemy for our justice. This is your mission as a Marine, isn't it? Yes. From the beginning, Akainu didn't think Momosagi's could bring any harm to Lin Yan. He was just a vice admiral, but Momosagi's sacrifice was not without value. After all, Lin Yan was just as ready to fight as that silly woman. This is the best opportunity for a sneak attack. So Akainu ordered the attack without hesitation, and at the same time took action himself, in order to catch the moment when Lin Yan's attention was on Momosagi, so as to hit this powerful enemy with a surprise attack. He would give up anything to enforce justice. Even if you trample on the consciousness of your companions, you will not hesitate to betray your former colleagues. Along with the fierce fire, there was a moment of calm on the sea. When the smoke completely dissipated, two unharmed figures appeared in front of everyone. TCH, did you fail? Akainu smacked his lips in displeasure and looked at Lin Yan with resentment. There were various expressions on his face, but there was no trace of regret. Obviously, Akainu has no regrets for trampling on Momosagi's consciousness and betrayal. Momosagi just looked at the man in front of him blankly, and after a while, he couldn't help but pursed his lips. Why are you protecting me? Aren't we enemies? That's just what you think. Lin Yan smiled softly. And I have decided that a good woman like you should not die here. From today on, you are mine. As he spoke, ignoring Momosagi whose expression suddenly became dull, Lin Yan reached out and swung Momosagi towards the direction of Nine Snakes Island. With a loud noise, Momosagi hit the ground hard, and for a while he was unable to fight. It's not that Lin Yan doesn't care about her. But she didn't want the ensuing battle, so this stupid woman stupidly rushed up to fight with her. Akainu shows no mercy. With Momosagi's strength, neither she nor Buster Call can face her. So it's time to exit here. Take care of her. Lin Yan glanced at the place where Momosagi hit, gave instructions to the confused Nine Snake Island warriors over there, and then turned to look at Akainu. There was finally a strong murderous intent in his eyes. An overwhelming momentum burst out from Lin Yan's body. Good. You succeeded in irritating me. Dirty as dung and twisted like maggots. After the previous betrayal, Lin Yan's patience with Akainu finally came to zero. So what? Nine Snake Island will be destroyed today. Even you can't stop it. However, until this moment, Akainu still had no regrets. Execute the order. Target Nine Snakes Island. The Marines on the warship all showed expressions of contempt and hatred, but they still obeyed the order. They may have the mood to uphold justice, but they do not have the strength and courage like Momosagi. Ordinary people are still the majority after all. A large number of warships turned their guns and aimed at the Nine Snake Island behind Lin Yan. But Lin Yan snorted coldly. You think I'm going to let you succeed, Hancock? Do it. I've been waiting for a long time, my dear. As Hancock's charming voice came, the entire sea began to riot. As if the seawater was alive, the entire sea area near Nine Snake Island began to boil. What? What's going on? In the sea. There is something in the sea. What happened? The entire Buster Call fleet was in panic for a moment, and the Marines screamed in panic one after another. Then when everyone finally saw the real owner, they all showed frightened expressions on their faces. Is it Sea Kings? Alert! Alert quickly! Why are you here? I don't want to die. Help! As the Sea Kings launched their attack, the entire Buster Call fleet began to panic, and screams occurred one after another. Hancock, the Empress of Nine Snake Island, finally appeared at this time. The girl stood proudly on her own pirate ship, with a beautiful smile on her face. Whether you kick cats and dogs away, trample on hope, or kill someone, no matter what I do, I will be forgiven, because I am so beautiful. As the price for annoying me, you will all die here. Hancock's eyes were filled with anger. Apparently, she was also completely offended by Akainu's despicable betrayal. Thanks to this, Hancock's disgust for the world government and these so-called righteous people has also reached its extreme. Akainu looked at everything in front of him with a gloomy expression. He finally couldn't maintain his composure and couldn't help but shouted coldly. What are you still looking at? Why don't you take action quickly? Oh, it's really scary. Along with Akainu's angry roar, the strong men who had been hiding for a long time also appeared one after another. Kizaru walked out of the warship with his usual careless pace, but the lazy smile on his face now looked a bit disgusting. Those who abandon their companions are not qualified to fight alongside them. He only appeared because he had orders. If you don't fulfill your responsibilities, who would associate with a villain like you? Mihawk drew his black knife and stepped forward, looking at Akainu with hawk-like eyes full of contempt. Foo. Don't say that, I'm very interested in that kind of technology. Captain of Whitebeard's 17th Division, are you interested in talking about it after it's over? Doflamingo's smile remained unchanged. He looked at the Sea Kings wreaking havoc around him with interest, and smiled at Lin Yan unscrupulously. If it were a trip, where would you like to go? Shang suddenly appeared holding a Bible and asked Lin Yan calmly. Shadow. I want this person's shadow. Gecko Moria looked at Lin Yan greedily. The big pirates named 7 warlords of the sea appeared one after another. Their evil appearance did not seem to represent justice at all, and all the strong men from the CP department also appeared behind them. It's just different from these big pirates. Their presence is low. But no one dares to underestimate them. It seems that all the actors are here. Looking at the group of strong men in front of him, Lin Yan breathed out casually. This lineup was pretty much what he imagined. Hancock, the control of the Legion will be handed over to you. Ain, it's your turn next. Lin Yan suddenly snapped his fingers and smiled. Okay. I've been waiting for a long time. As Lin Yan finished speaking, Ain appeared in front of the man without warning, holding 2 swords and a smile on his pretty face. A strong fighting spirit slowly burned in the girl's eyes. After gaining new strength, Ain can't wait to try it out. These opponents in front of her are exactly what she wants. Foo. It seems like another amazing guy has appeared. Doflamingo chuckled, then looked at Hawkeye Mihawk beside him and suggested, as a shrewd businessman, Doflamingo has his own plan. Lin Yan's strength is obvious to all, and even Doflamingo doesn't want to fight him. The woman next to him looked very difficult to deal with. But it's still a little weaker than Lin Yan, right? Doflamingo, has a character that refuses to suffer, so there is a reason why he brings Hawkeye along with him. Good. Mihawk, as he expected, nodded readily without any hesitation, his eyes locked on the 2 swords in Ain's hands. The opponent is a powerful swordsman, so there is a reason to take action. This man who has devoted his whole life to kendo has always had such a simple and direct way of thinking. Seeing this scene, Lin Yan also smiled and raised his chin towards Ain. It seems that someone wants to duel with you, so I'll leave it to you. Okay. Ain nodded without hesitation. I also want to see what kind of power the world's greatest swordsman has. With that said, Ain rushed out. The target is Mihawk. Foo. What are you waiting for? Let's do it together. With Doflamingo's chuckle, the battle suddenly broke out in the next second. Mihawk and Doflamingo versus Iron. The rest of the Shichibukai, who were about to paddle, set out to deal with the damage caused by the Sea Kings and the Warcraft Legion. Akainu Kizaru, who had a feud with Lin Yan, as well as many strong players from CP and Marine, all attacked Lin Yan one after another, and a small group rushed towards Hancock. The battle to protect 9 Snake Island. At this point, it's finally started. A roar soon erupted from Hancock and Ain's side, while Lin Yan was leisurely looking at the people surrounding him. Do you really think highly of me? Suffer death. Akainu didn't waste any time. His body turned into lava and punched Lin Yan. Kizaru and the other strong men naturally followed suit immediately. Facing Lin Yan. This monster single-handedly reversed the Summit War. No one dares to look down upon it. However, in the face of these violent attacks, Lin Yan did not panic at all, and just smiled sarcastically. Just right. Let's test it on you. As he spoke, Lin Yan opened his eyes suddenly. Suzano. With a soft drink, the purple giant rose from the ground. But it is not the previous skeleton form. Instead, it was a behemoth that was clad in hard armor, heavy armor, and several hundred meters tall. Complete body Suzano. Feeling a completely different feeling from before, which could be called a great power, Lin Yan couldn't help but reveal a wild smile on his face. If you can take it, come and try it. The next moment. Under the horrified expressions of everyone, Suzano held a long knife and struck Akainu on the head. Ah! Feeling the fatal threat for a moment, Akainu immediately exerted all his strength without reservation. With a roar, his whole body glowed red, trying to resist the knife. However, can it really be resisted? What greeted him was a sword that was like thunder. As the others watched with pale faces, they slashed at Akainu with the huge sword. Unexpectedly, he was not slow at all and easily split Akainu in half. Akainu's full resistance looks like a joke. The long knife sliced through Akainu's body easily, and the violent airflow then shattered the magma he formed. Then, without losing its power, the knife was draped on the sea. Boom, the entire sea was split in half, and countless warships were completely turned into wrecks by this violent sword. This is the power of Suzano, the complete body. Comparable to a true god. Gouda. I don't know who started, all the strong men stopped moving, even Kizaru's usual lazy face showed a hint of horror at this moment. One knife. Just one knife. Akainu, the marine marshal, loses his ability to fight. If this knife is facing me. No one dared to speak, everyone watched with sadness as the dog's completely broken body fell onto the ground exposed by the splitting of the sea. I just felt a cold sweat on my back. Even the strong men in the CP department, who were born as eagle dogs, subconsciously retreated to a safe distance. It has nothing to do with will. This is biological instinct. This guy. The smile on Kizaru's face disappeared completely, and his eyes looking at Lin Yan were only solemn. Getting stronger. How should we fight against such a monster? It can be said that the momentum was interrupted. Facing Lin Yan, who displayed the complete Suzano in front of them, the strong men looked at each other, and for a moment, they actually stopped moving. Only Akainu, who was shattered to pieces, was silently condensing his body. Go and bring the marshal back to the ship first. Kizaru gritted his teeth and said to the vice admirals around him. After all, you can tell just from Lin Yan's previous actions, right? This is definitely not a battlefield that vice admiral levels can enter. Instead of doing this, it is better to rescue Akainu first. Otherwise, when the split sea returns to its original shape, Akainu in this state may not be able to escape death. Yes. The vice admirals who also realized this were wise enough to withdraw from the battle circle without hesitation after hearing Kizaru's order. Do you think you can do it? Seeing this scene, Lin Yan, who was above Suzano, snorted and immediately launched an attack on everyone without hesitation. Boom, however, Kizaru's reaction was not slow at all. At the same moment that Lin Yan made a move, his whole body immediately turned into a bright light and kicked Suzano's knife hand directly. Interesting. Seeing that Kizaru finally used his full strength, Lin Yan smiled wildly, and the CP experts who were a little dull just now also continued to join the battle. Everyone, let's fight on our own. As a sparkling fruit user, Kizaru is extremely fast, and after seeing the power of Lin Yan's sword before, he did not dare to confront him head-on, so he had to call out to others. The rest of the people naturally had this intention as well. So all of a sudden, all the strong men began to attack Suzano. They are the elite force of the world government, and their physical skills are naturally not weak. With mutual cooperation, they began to engage in a war of attrition around Lin Yan. As for winning, faced with such power, no one knew how to win. But even if you can't win, you still have to fight. Because of what they represent, it's the entire world government. And Marine's justice. Suddenly, Lin Yan was having a great time fighting. On the other side of the battle circle, Ain was also closely matched with Mihawk. After catching Ain's powerful slash again, Hawkeye fell from midair and landed back on the warship. His sharp eyes like a falcon couldn't help but reveal a hint of surprise. Are you really a woman? Hawkeye looked at Ain in surprise. This level of brute strength. Is it really possible for a woman to do this? Are you kidding me? As the world's top swordsman, Hawkeye could naturally tell at a glance that Ain's swordsmanship was probably far inferior to his own. But this woman has incredible brute strength. Under that overwhelming power, even his exquisite sword moves were unable to be used. Even he could only achieve a draw with the opponent. The saying that one force can defeat all tricks is probably what it means. What? Look down on women. Hearing Hawkeye say these words, Ain couldn't help but raise his eyebrows. That's not what I meant, it's just that I've never seen a swordsman like you. Hawkeye simply shook his head. Facing the terrifying Ain in front of him, he inevitably spoke a little too much. This was the respect he should have for a respectable opponent. Hawkeye's character has always been like this. You can reach this level just by fighting with brute force. You are the only swordsman I have ever seen in my life, so I will take it seriously next. As he spoke, Hawkeye clenched the black knife in his hand, and his falcon-like eyes began to burn with fighting intent. Say your name, swordsman. Hearing what Hawkeye said, Ain's expression softened slightly. It has to be said that Ain used to have some admiration for the world's greatest swordsman in front of him, but now, he also has the power to become his enemy. All because of Lin Yan's existence. Thinking of this, Ain's face couldn't help but reveal a proud smile. Jonin raised his swords and pointed at Hawkeye. Ain. Dracul Mihawk. According to the etiquette of swordsmen, They announced their names to each other, and the next moment, the two fought together again, even more fiercely than the previous battle. Under the glare of swords and shadows, Doflamingo looked on with the same smile on his face. Foo. This is really interesting. Without any intention of interfering, Doflamingo's eyes flashed with an inexplicable light, and he didn't know what he was thinking. The battle began to become more and more intense. Iron and Hawkeye were inseparable from each other. Hancock commanded the female warriors in the Warcraft Legion on Nine Snake Island, constantly causing astonishing damage to warships. The most important one, Lin Yan, faced the siege of the largest number of strong men. Possibly the biggest buster call ever. He was actually held back by 3 people. If someone had said this before, you will definitely be laughed at. But now, everything is really happening before our eyes. As the battle continued and the losses continued to increase, the hearts of everyone on the buster call side slowly sank, but they could only adjust their state and continue to face the battle. As said before, from the start, there was no option for them to back off. Boom. Lin Yan controlled Suzano to repel Kizaru again, and glanced at the battle situation not far away, with an impatient expression on his face. Okay. Let's end the game here. I'm a little tired of playing house with you. With that said, Lin Yan slowly dispersed Suzano from his body and floated on the sea again. Hearing Lin Yan say these words, the strong men who surrounded him all showed a wry smile on their faces. Play house? We are fighting with our lives. In the eyes of this man, it turned out to be just playing house. All of a sudden, everyone's hearts were filled with bitterness. However, Lin Yan didn't bother to care about what they thought. After Suzano's power experiment was completed, it was time for these people to feel despair. Come and try this trick. A wanton and arrogant smile slowly appeared on his face. Lin Yan narrowed his eyes slightly, and then suddenly extended his right hand to everyone, with Rinnegan's lines flickering in his eyes. Instantly, a sense of fatal threat hit everyone's hearts. The most powerful Kizaru's expression changed drastically in an instant. From Lin Yan's aura, he smelled death. Qian didn't have time to think too much, but Kizaru's face changed in shock. Without hesitation, he activated the fruit's ability to turn into golden light, and then yelled at everyone. Everyone get out of here, retreat. Kizaru ran the fastest, and the others reacted immediately and followed Kizaru back quickly without hesitation. They are all top strong men. The speed and responsiveness are naturally not slow at all. However, is it really too late? Lin Yan didn't care about these people's escape. He just showed a mocking smile on his face, and then lightly snapped his fingers. Feel the pain, Shinra Tenjung, boom. Suddenly, an incredible repulsive force burst out from Lin Yan's body. Under this huge pressure, the seawater began to riot. In just a moment, a huge tsunami formed and crushed everyone. Puff? All the strong men directly affected by this repulsive force spat out a mouthful of old blood, and then fell helplessly into the sea. Only Kizaru managed to escape with his amazing speed. But that's all. Then, what is that? It's a tsunami. Everyone is on alert. Damn. Why is this happening? Is he really human? Without the obstruction of strong men, the tsunami formed by the huge repulsion naturally needs these ordinary marines to face it. Even the roar of shock and anger was useless. Facing such a powerful force comparable to nature, all they can do is to save their lives as much as possible. It seems that my Lin is a little impatient. Of course, Ain, who was fighting with Hawkeye, also noticed this scene, and couldn't help but smile and step away, his eyes shining brightly. Full of pride. This is the person you like. Even if the entire world government comes out in force, they can only tremble in front of him. Looks like our duel will have to be saved for another time. After all, I have work to do now. Ain smiled at Hawkeye. I have no opinion. Hawkeye nodded without hesitation. Originally, he didn't have a good impression of world government. This time he came here just to be recruited. Besides, Hawkeye also wanted to see what kind of job Ain was talking about. Ain smiled when he heard this, put away his swords, and waved his little hands casually. After all, Lin Yan's Shinra Tianzhong attacks without distinction. Marine faces the tsunami. The other part is naturally heading towards Nine Snakes Island. So next, it's your job. Rise. Ain suddenly raised his little hand, and under the surprised sight of Hawkeye and Doflamingo, the water near Nine Snake Island suddenly rose into the sky, and instantly formed a huge shield in front of Nine Snake Island. The huge tsunami that made Marine cry for his father and mother was actually blocked just like that. The entire Nine Snakes Island was unscathed. Even the female warriors and monsters who were fighting were evaded early under Hancock's command, and it can be said that there was almost no loss. Hawkeye and Doflamingo couldn't help but be silent for a while. This woman in front of me, haven't you tried your best before? Since when exactly? Are there so many monsters in the sea? I hope you can give your best in the next fight. After remaining silent for a long time, Hawkeye said with a rare sigh. There will be a chance. With a hint of respect for the Hawkeye in front of him, Ain nodded his head seriously. Hawkeye nodded likewise. Then he returned to his boat contentedly, facing the tsunami with unparalleled advice. Doflamingo also returned the same way, as said before. These Shichibukai are just here to paddle. I don't mind adding insult to injury, but I definitely won't use my full strength. The other Shichibukai, like the two of them, returned to the ship to protect their own forces. But the Marine and CP members on the other side were not so lucky. Under the situation where the strong ones were almost wiped out by Lin Yan. Only they themselves can face this kind of power. And facing natural disasters as a human being. The outcome seems to have been predetermined. Sakazuki, what are you waiting for? Use that quickly. Kizaru looked livid as the warships were turned into pieces in the tsunami. Finally, he couldn't control his emotions and roared at Akainu, who had already condensed half of his body. I've used it a long time ago. Akainu's face was also extremely ugly. Before setting off for the expedition, he never imagined that the outcome would be like this. Have to admit, after all, they underestimated this man. But it's too late to regret now. I can only hope that one can catch up. Even as crazy as Akainu, he can only pray silently in his heart at this moment. Boom, fortunately. Just when everyone was about to despair, a very strange current suddenly appeared in front of the huge tsunami. Huh? That is. Lin Yan naturally noticed this and couldn't help but narrowed his eyes slightly. Under the watchful eye of Lin Yan, the strange sea current that suddenly appeared was like a wall blocking the tsunami, emitting bursts of harsh and unpleasant laughter. It's like a living wave. Both are composed of seawater. The moment the tsunami comes into contact with this current, it is dissolved invisible by a strange force, and the last small number of marine warships are also preserved. As if he was aware of it, Lin Yan squinted his eyes and suddenly turned his head to look in a certain direction. At some point, the huge fleet appeared on the sea level again. The leader was a fat woman who was hard to look at. 4 Emperors Charlotte Linlin, join the battlefield. Haha, you people are really in a bad mood, but this is not over yet. In the sea on the other side, accompanied by a burst of mocking laughter, a giant-like man also headed here with his fleet. 4 Emperors Kaido, join the battlefield. I see, this is your trump card. Lin Yan narrowed his eyes slightly and looked at Akainu, who had barely condensed half of his body on the warship, with a trace of ridicule on his face. Please touch those 2 guys. I wonder how much it cost you. Huh. Just, as long as I can kill you. Having just barely regained his human form, Akainu's voice sounded a bit choppy and labored, but the resentment contained in his words was obvious. Akainu's heart is bleeding. I originally thought that with so much power summoned this time, it would be completely easy to take down 9 Snake Island. Even Lin Yan could not stop it. But now, 3 people, with just 3 people, Marine lost almost 4/5. As a last resort, he used his last trump card and invited the 4 emperors at a huge cost. Akainu didn't even know how he should report when he went back. However, as long as he can kill Lin Yan in front of him, everything has a chance. Thinking of this, Akainu couldn't help but reveal a ferocious smile. This time. Can you continue to win? Akainu laughed wildly at Lin Yan. The voice was full of resentment. He really hated Lin Yan in front of him. In Akainu's opinion, the reason why he became what he is today is all thanks to the man in front of him. How can Akainu not hate this? Now with the 2 Sea Emperors joining the team, Akainu could not hide his excitement even at a huge cost. As long as Lin Yan doesn't die, he just can't move on. In response, Lin Yan smiled noncommittally. Regardless of resentment or excitement, from the beginning, he never paid attention to the Akainu in front of him. So what if there are 2 Sea Emperors? Then just watch what happens next with your eyes wide open. Without much refutation of Akainu's interest, Lin Yan narrowed his eyes and looked at the 2 groups of 4 emperors that were approaching. Unexpectedly, the Holy Grail of the Netherworld had appeared in front of him. However, just when Lin Yan was about to start taking action at all costs, he would teach these guys a lesson they would never forget. Lin Yan's expression suddenly paused. Immediately, a smile appeared on his face. Then a moment later, A hearty laugh resounded throughout the sea. Gula la la la. Kaido boy. And Lin, you bullied me, the captain of the Whitebeard pirates, have you asked me for my opinion? Suddenly, everyone's expressions changed. Lin Yan and others couldn't help but shake their heads and smile bitterly. As for the Buster Call party, everyone's expressions changed drastically. Even Akainu turned his head in surprise and looked straight at the tall man on the bow of the Moby Dick. Edward Newgate. Even a person like Akainu has a look of fear on his face when he hears this name. For everyone in this day and age, the name Whitebeard Edward Newgate. It's all a legend. Even though he always calls himself a remnant of the old era, there is no ship in the new world that can carry him. But look at the entire sea area. A man who can laugh so heartily. Only Whitebeard. Why are you here? Seeing Whitebeard and all the division captains joining the battle, Lin Yan flicked his hands to disperse the light on the holy grail of the netherworld, couldn't help but scratch his face and smiled. Gu la 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 la, I'm not so old that I can't even notice the movements of the other 4 emperors. Whitebeard let out his trademark strange laugh. Lin, it's not interesting for you. You didn't come to us for such a big thing. If Dad hadn't mentioned it, we wouldn't even know about it. Marco also poked his head out from behind Whitebeard. Lin Yan shouted with some dissatisfaction. The other division captains also nodded. Not interesting enough, You've obviously promised that the entire Whitebeard pirates will support you. Why didn't you say anything to us when such a big thing happened? All of a sudden, the entire Whitebeard pirates looked at Lin Yan with dissatisfaction in their eyes. Okay, my bad. Lin Yan scratched his head helplessly. Even he didn't expect it to turn out like this at first. But having said that, this feeling is really good. Well, it feels like someone is supporting me. Thinking about it, Lin Yan couldn't help but put a smile on her face again. Edward. Are you trying to stop us? The arrival of the Whitebeard pirate group undoubtedly caused a wave of fluctuations. Even the other 2 4 emperors groups temporarily stopped. Charlotte Linlin stood on the bow of the ship and yelled at Whitebeard. Whitebeard naturally yelled back without hesitation. Linlin. What are you talking about? Lin is the captain of the 17th Division of the Whitebeard Pirates, but I still want to ask you what you mean. There is nothing wrong with what I say. Even Charlotte Linlin was speechless for a moment. Although she has never been unreasonable, she is also divided into objects. Facing Whitebeard at his peak, who in this sea dares to be unreasonable? She, Charlotte Linlin, doesn't dare. But I also received compensation from Marine and World Government. If I retreat now, there may be some trouble later. Thinking of this, even Charlotte Linlin was a little hesitant for a moment. Whitebeard. Well done. However, Kaido, who was even more unreasonable on the other side, didn't care so much. Seeing Whitebeard bring people here, he was actually not surprised but happy. Young ones, follow me, Kaido ordered with a laugh. Hearing this, Whitebeard's eyes suddenly became dangerous, and he raised his naginata and pointed it at Kaido. Boy Kaido, are you not going to give me this face? I charge money to do things, so what if I don't give you face? Kaido snorted. Whitebeard had an angry expression and was about to step forward to have a physical exchange with Kaido when Lin Yan spoke. Give it to me, Forrest. Everyone was surprised. After all, listen to what Lin Yan means. It seems like he is going to face Kaido. Facing the Emperor of the Sea. Lin, calm down, that's Kaido, not some cat or dog. Marco, who had always been most familiar with Lin Yan on the boat, immediately spoke, his words full of worry. After all, that is Kaido, who is said to be immortal. Every sea emperor. None of it is simple. There is naturally a reason why Kaido can dance so happily and still maintain his status as the Emperor of the Sea. From a biological point of view, he has almost reached the pinnacle. Otherwise, everyone would not be afraid of him. Even if Whitebeard plays in person, it also takes a lot of effort to defeat Kaido. And it's just repelling it. Yes, Lin, we are all here, even Kaido can touch it. As before, let's fight side by side. The others also spoke one after another. However, Whitebeard was the only one who looked at Lin Yan in silence. Whitebeard's eyes narrowed slightly, and he did not speak like other captains. He just stared at Lin Yan quietly, as if he was confirming something. Whitebeard met Lin Yan's eyes. There was no hint of panic in Lin Yan's eyes, but instead they were filled with extremely strong confidence. It's obvious. Lin Yan really has a way. Thinking of this, even Whitebeard couldn't help but show a hearty smile on his face, since Lin Yan showed such a look to him. So there is no need to say more about what should be done next. Gu la 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 la. Thinking about it, Whitebeard couldn't help but let out a hearty laugh again, and then waved his hand and pushed everyone back on the boat. In that case, then believe him, Whitebeard laughed. There was an unspeakable seriousness in his words. Dad, are you serious? The captains headed by Marco looked at Whitebeard in great surprise, as if they didn't understand why Whitebeard made such a decision. You know, it's a 4 emperors group. One person facing a group of 4 emperors. Is this really possible? Among the captains, Marco, who had the best relationship with Lin Yan, suddenly became anxious and was about to speak. The next second, he was slapped on the deck by Whitebeard. Lin has said so, shouldn't you believe him as much as I do? Whitebeard glared at Marco. How many times do you think that man has brought about miracles? How could it be possible to lose here? That kind of confident look in the eyes of a strong man cannot deceive anyone. Don't you see it? He's not just trying to show off, but he really has this strength, goo la 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 la. Following Whitebeard's burst of laughter, everyone was silent for a while, and then the calmest Zephyr and Yishao nodded first. It seems like this. I really don't know what other methods there are. Zephyr smiled expectantly. Apparently he agreed with Whitebeard. How could that man who he could follow willingly be so strong-willed? But even so, we have to stop one. A smile and a slight nod. The others were speechless immediately, and the captains also set their sights on Whitebeard. Gu la 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 la, leave this to me. Whitebeard smiled heartily and turned the direction of the naginata in his hand, pointing straight at Charlotte Linlin. Linlin, stop here. If you keep going, don't blame me for not giving you face. Whitebeard's tone became serious. Obviously, he wasn't kidding. As long as Charlotte Linlin dares to take another step forward, the Whitebeard pirates will be dispatched in full force. The war between the 4 emperors is just a matter of Charlotte Linlin's thoughts. Facing Whitebeard's soaring momentum, even Charlotte Linlin couldn't help but be stunned. After reacting, he couldn't help but roared angrily. Edward, are you really going to fall out with me over a boy? Fart. That's Lousy's family. Whitebeard roared back without giving in. For him, Lin Yan is a crew member, a lifesaver, and even Whitebeard's family. Although he and Charlotte Linlin had a long-standing friendship, here, Whitebeard still made his choice without hesitation. Want to hurt Lousy's family? That means stepping on Lousy's body? It seemed that she didn't expect Whitebeard to have such determination. Charlotte Linlin went crazy for a while, but in the end she didn't dare to move forward. Anyone who knows Whitebeard knows that. Whitebeard would never joke about something like this. Step back and take a look first. In desperation, Charlotte Linlin could only make this decision. She raised her hand to signal the generals behind her to calm down. Anyway, there's that idiot Kaido here, so there's no point in falling out with Whitebeard here. Seeing that Charlotte Linlin didn't move, Whitebeard nodded slightly, and then looked at Kaido on the other side who was already rushing towards Lin Yan. Although I decided to trust Lin Yan completely. But Whitebeard still couldn't help but have some worry in his eyes. Let me see what you're capable of. Under everyone's gaze, Kaido took the lead and led his entire 4 emperors group straight towards Lin Yan. Like a rampaging ferocious beast. If there is anyone who is the craziest of all the sea emperors, it is without a doubt Kaido. This guy is as crazy as Charlotte Linlin when she's sick. This person doesn't even recognize his relatives. However, facing the aggressive Kaido, Lin Yan just smiled indifferently. The holy grail of use that appeared in front of him began to shine again. Of course not to deal with Kaido. What's this? The bottom of the sea. The bottom of the sea appears again. Defend. Defend quickly. There was another commotion from Marine's side. That's right. Lin Yan's use of the holy grail of use was just to restrain Marine. After all, Akainu knew how despicable he was. Lin Yan didn't want to be disturbed by Kaido when he faced him. Just let them deal with the turmoil caused by the holy grail of the netherworld, so the cost can be ignored. As for dealing with Kaido, buzz, at some point, a dazzling holy sword suddenly appeared in Lin Yan's hand. As soon as the holy sword appeared, it instantly attracted everyone's attention. That is, Whitebeard looked at Lin Yan in surprise. After all, he didn't know that Lin Yan had such a treasure. Although he didn't know what kind of sword it was, it didn't prevent Whitebeard from feeling the powerful fluctuations on it. Of course, Whitebeard just felt the fluctuation. That sword? As for Mihawk, the world's greatest swordsman, he stood up from the boat with a swipe, his usual calm face showing a rare lapse in expression. Just because he is a top swordsman. Only Mihawk can feel the horror of that holy sword most directly. And that's exactly what happened. Under Mihawk's even horrified gaze, Lin Yan had a solemn expression on his face and slowly raised the holy sword above his head. The entire sea surface seemed to have turned into solid earth, allowing Lin Yan to stand lightly on the sea surface. At some point, bright lights began to appear on the sea. It was a dot of stars formed by the convergence of glory and victory. This is from another world. A popular legend about a victorious king. Among the legends, when the king raised the holy sword in his hand, all enemies, whether armies or cities, will turn into powder in front of her. This holy sword is the glory of victory. This holy sword is a collection of legends. Gathering the glory and will of the ever-victorious king, everything will be destroyed under the torrent of light. If it comes down to it, let's give it a try. I want to see how far your so-called immortality can last. Lin Yan looked at Kaido with cold eyes. It seems that what he is facing is not an immortal sea emperor, but just an ordinary enemy in a lifetime of battles. There is no reason to be afraid, while liberating the noble phantasm. The will of the ever-victorious king also blessed Lin Yan. Then at some point, Lin Yan's eyes suddenly condensed, and the holy sword that gathered a lot of light in his hand fell heavily at the same moment. True name Liberation. Excalibur. A huge amount of light gathered together and then turned into a huge torrent of light. The whole world seemed to be silent. Everyone's eyes widened. With a look of disbelief in his eyes, he watched the huge light cannon rush towards Beast's pirates. The Kizaru people, who are also able to control light, are going to be stupid. What the hell is that? Just like Mihawk, who was a top swordsman before and could feel the terror of the holy sword, he is also a user with the ability of sparkling fruit. Kizaru can naturally feel the terrifying power in that huge light. Simply unheard of. It can probably destroy a city, right? Kizaru's eyes were full of solemnity, and the lazy expression on his face completely disappeared. He just looked straight at Lin Yan, who was holding the holy sword high. When did such a terrifying treasure appear in the world? And it has to be said that Kizaru's guess is correct. The holy sword Excalibur is indeed a genuine anti-city treasure. After liberating his true name, he has the power to destroy a large city with one strike. Everyone was shocked by this trump card. Naturally, this also includes the Beast's pirates who face this attack. When faced with the light of the holy sword, even Kaido, who looked arrogant before, his face froze and he stopped subconsciously. He actually felt a fatal threat from the roaring light. This is something that has never happened before in my life. What is he instinctively afraid of? But immediately, Kaido's expression turned ferocious, and he took another step without hesitation. He, Kaido, is the emperor of this sea. Being born a strong man, Kaido naturally has his own pride. The fear he felt a moment ago has made Kaido extremely angry at this moment. I am immortal. Kaido roared with a ferocious expression, and actually faced Excalibur's liberation head-on without hesitation. Then everything seemed to disappear in front of everyone. The dazzling light exploded instantly. It took away everyone's attention in an instant. What came immediately was incredible light and heat. Let's leave aside Kaido's situation. But the members of the Beast's pirates behind him were blown away by these aftermaths, and even the three disasters were not immune. Fortunately, Kaido withstood most of the impact. Otherwise, just rely on this terrifying attack. I'm afraid today's Beast's pirates, grr. As expected of me, the captain of the 17th Division of the Whitebeard Pirates. Witnessing this scene that was like a natural disaster, Whitebeard let out a series of heroic laughs. There is no doubt that today's scene will become a legend on the sea in the future. As for the rest of the people, they were not as relaxed as Whitebeard, and they all stared nervously at the place where the light erupted. As one of the four emperors, Kaido, after all. Everyone swallowed their saliva. Then, under everyone's nervous and fearful gaze, the dazzling light slowly dissipated, and Kaido knelt down on one knee. Now there was only a lonely wooden board left in the entire pirate ship. Call. Kaido took a deep breath. Because of the terrifying light and heat before, Kaido's skin was red and shiny at this moment, and his whole body looked like he had been fished out of lava. But he finally endured it. Even though most of his power was consumed, Kaido still survived the head-on confrontation with the anti-fortress noble phantasm. Tisk. It should be said that he is worthy of being called the strongest creature. Lin Yan couldn't help but smacked his lips. It makes sense after all. If ordinary creatures were to face the light of the city's noble phantasm, they would have been wiped out long ago, so avoiding it was the only way. From this point of view, Kaido is indeed the four emperors. The name of the strongest creature is well deserved. Lin Yan, right. Very good, Lousy remembers your name. Feeling that his strength was almost exhausted, Kaido stood up with great difficulty, took a deep look at Lin Yan and said, "There are definitely not many people in this sea who are qualified for him to remember their names. But today, even he had to admit it, the other party is a strong man at least the same level as himself." For Kaido, being able to remember a person's name deeply is the greatest respect. With that said, Kaido turned to look at the crew behind him and roared, "We are in trouble today. There is no reason to explain, come with me." Although he survived the previous light for the time being. But Kaido's power is running out. As 4 emperors, he simply chose to admit defeat. The skills are not as good as the people, there is nothing to say. Regardless of whether Lin Yan relied on his own strength or the help of some treasure, today's beasts pirates are all losers. With that said, Kaido turned his head and nodded to Lin Yan, then turned around and left without hesitation. As for the payment from Marine and World Government? Nothing to do with Lousy. Lousy tried his best. Watching Kaido retreat with the beast's pirates, Lin Yan had no intention of stopping him. Defeating Kaido and killing Kaido are 2 completely different concepts. This time he was facing Buster Call, so there was no need to fall out with Kaido here. Lin Yan still knew the principle of chasing after an enemy who is in trouble. After all, to put it bluntly, pirates and marines are enemies after all. At this point, the beast's pirates are in full retreat. Seeing this, Whitebeard raised his naginata. "Linlin, do you want to continue?" Whitebeard laughed and looked at Charlotte Linlin and asked. The latter's expression was somewhat uncertain. Now that Marine has been defeated, the beast's pirates have also admitted defeat. If they continue to stay, they will have to face the entire Whitebeard pirates and the completely ignorant Lin Yan. How to choose, Charlotte Linlin knows it well. "Let's go." After only hesitating for a few seconds, Charlotte Linlin turned around and greeted her crew members. "It seems that he is giving up. Let's go too." Seeing that Charlotte Linlin was also planning to retreat, Kizaru gave the order without hesitation. After all, you can realize it with just a little thought, right? If Marine's people are still here after the 2-4 Emperors groups retreat, what will happen then? So it seems that I have to admit it. This time it was their total defeat. Although Akainu, who had just recovered half of his recovery, was unwilling to give up, he also knew that he could not stay here for a long time. He just looked at Lin Yan deeply with some resentment, but did not object to Kizaru's decision. Looking at the Marines retreating with her, Charlotte Linlin snorted coldly. A boring little calculation. Charlotte Linlin looked at the Marines with disdain. But he didn't say much. "I came here under the entrustment of world government, and I received a large reward in advance. It's okay if you don't contribute any strength during the battle. It would be a bit unreasonable to leave Marine and the remaining strength of the CP department alone at this time. Even as 4 emperors, if possible, Charlotte Linlin would not want to fall out with the world government. The Whitebeard pirates and Lin Yan also have no intention of continuing to pursue. The enemy has been routed. Continuing to pursue here will lead to losses, which is not a good thing for either the Whitebeard pirates who are recovering or Kuji Island. And it's not yet time to completely break up with the world government." Then things became very simple after that. The aggressive Buster Call receded like the tide, announcing the complete failure of the world government's crusade against 9 Snake Island. Not surprisingly, this has been making headlines around the world recently. "Lin, I really belong to you." The crisis was completely resolved, and everyone from the Whitebeard pirates also sailed over. Marco, who had always been relatively familiar with Lin Yan, jumped out first and gave Lin Yan a thumbs up. "You have to be able to cause trouble, but if you say it out loud, it's more embarrassing." "What does it mean to cause trouble? Is this self-defense?" Lin Yan rolled his eyes at Marco and ignored him, then turned to look at Whitebeard and scratched his face helplessly. "Why are you all here? The group should still be recuperating now. I can handle things here myself." "Gu la 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 la, don't worry about it." Whitebeard laughed heartily. "Compared with those trivial things, our most important thing has always been to protect our families. The work is never finished." With that said, Whitebeard reached out and patted Lin Yan on the shoulder. For this man, as long as it is to protect his cherished family, he can do any crazy thing without hesitation. The previous Summit War is an example. At that time, Whitebeard was already prepared to die in order to protect his family. "Fine." Seeing Whitebeard's firm attitude, Lin Yan said nothing and just put a smile on his face. "Then there will be a party after that, right? Don't you know very well?" Everyone immediately laughed heartily. The atmosphere was joyful. so naturally there is nothing to say about what happens next. Moby Dick docked at the port of Nine Snake Island, and everyone filed in with Lin Yan. At the same time, the entire Nine Snake Island began to prepare for the next grand banquet. Everyone has a real smile on their face. After this battle, they protected their homeland. Although it is difficult for ordinary soldiers to say what a huge role they played, it is a fact that everyone is fighting side by side. Now that you have won the victory, you should naturally celebrate it together. The popularity of Hancock and Lin Yan has also skyrocketed. If Hancock is the Empress of Nine Snake Island, then after this battle, Lin Yan has become the Emperor of Nine Snake Island. The full name of idol belongs to Yes. Many people are wondering, when will their queen and emperor get married? Of course, this is something to talk about later, so I won't mention it for now. The complicated preparations continued until late at night, and the banquet officially began. But everyone's interest has not diminished at all because of time. Instead, the entire Nine Snakes Island was partying. Marco and others were even more happy to be surrounded by a group of young ladies. And Lin Yan, who is the centerpiece of the banquet. With the passionate look from the young lady and the slightly amused looks from Hancock and Ain, he found an excuse to leave the venue. He wasn't out on a date, but there is something to be solved. After asking the female soldier who was standing guard for a while, she got the specific location under her eager gaze, and Lin Yan did not hesitate. Soon, he walked around and came to an inconspicuous wooden house. "Excuse me." A very gentleman knocked on the door politely, and Lin Yan pushed the door open and entered. And just as expected, at this moment, Momoshagi was lying there with no expression on his face. Why are you here?" It wasn't until Lin Yan pushed the door open that the expression on Momosagi's face changed a little, and he quickly shrank into the corner with a pale expression. "Something to say? Like a rabbit in danger? There's no need to be so vigilant, right? I'm just here to talk to you." He looked at Momosagi with a panicked look on his face. Lin Yan spread his hands helplessly, showing that he is not hostile. However, Momosagi obviously didn't think so. When he saw Lin Yan approaching, the expression on his pretty face was obviously more panicked. "After all, you want to know, right? It's late at night now." At this point in time, Lin Yan suddenly came to visit him who was seriously injured. No matter how he thought about it, nothing good would happen. But I couldn't beat him at all, and when he was on the battlefield, the man in front of him said that to himself. So Momosagi's panic is understandable. I don't know if she thought of something interesting, but the girl's pretty face turned slightly red. She watched Lin Yan gradually walk in, and finally pulled out her sword with a swipe. "Don't come here. Otherwise I will commit suicide," the girl roared with blood-red face. However, seeing her performance, Lin Yan was stunned. "Isn't it?" Lin Yan looked at Momosagi with a strange look. "One thing to say. Are Marines so strong these days? Although it is a good thing to be so loyal, I just want to recruit you to join my pirate group, and I said that we can talk. You're not looking for life and death, are you? And weren't you just betrayed? What if you promise to hate Marine from now on and happily join me? Is there something wrong with the director's script?" Lin Yan can't understand, but it was a big shock. Seeing Momosagi's blood-red face, Lin Yan didn't intend to get any closer. After all, there was a saying, if the girl really got so excited that she fainted, where would he cry? But having said that, this situation cannot be allowed to continue. You know, Momosagi has just been betrayed. This is when psychological defenses are most vulnerable. As the saying goes, it will kill you while you are sick. How could Lin Yan let go of such a perfect opportunity? Thinking about it, Lin Yan spread his hands helplessly. Okay, then I'll go." After saying that, he turned around and looked like he was going to leave. Seeing him being so straightforward, Momosagi was relieved. However, the girl was obviously too naive. The moment she breathed a sigh of relief, Lin Yan suddenly rushed towards her. Didn't expect it. Fight back." Lin Yan's movements were extremely fast. At this point, Momosagi couldn't react at all. After all, the strength of the two can be said to be worlds apart. Even in full form, Momosagi couldn't beat Lin Yan's opponent, let alone injured and unable to concentrate at this time. So the result is obvious. Lin Yan easily stepped forward, first grabbed the sword in the girl's hand, and then pushed Momosagi into the corner. "How naive, girl." Lin Yan had a wicked smile on his face. "You're trying to commit suicide in front of me. It's your fault, but do you think it's useful?" Lin Yan looked at Momosagi with interest. Then he laughed rather wickedly. There is a line that he has wanted to try for a long time. Unfortunately, there was no one around to cooperate. The current situation is pretty good. The bad water in Lin Yan's stomach began to gurgling out, so under Momosagi's horrified expression, Lin Yan slowly raised the corners of his mouth. Even if you scream, no one will come to save you. After hearing this, Momosagi was strangely silent. Then he gave up the struggle with an expression of resignation on his face. Even if you get my person, you still can't get my heart. You saved my life before. I secretly like you a little bit. I originally thought about just struggling. I didn't expect you to be this kind of person. Take it, and then I'll kill myself. As if he was afraid that he would never have a chance to speak again, Momosagi spoke a lot of words very quickly, and then closed his eyes tightly. Lin Yan was dumbfounded. This. To be fair, I was just joking. Girl, do you have so many inner dramas? The self-exploding truck belongs to yes. Lin Yan was speechless. Looking at Momosagi, who looked resigned and closed his eyes tightly, he didn't know what to say for a moment. I thought you were loyal to Marine. Will you give me a chance? Sure enough, a woman's heart is as deep as a needle in the sea, and the ancients would not deceive me. But having said that, we can't let this misunderstanding continue, as long as Momosagi doesn't commit suicide. Thinking about it, Lin Yan sighed helplessly, and then let Momosagi go. Although I don't know what you were misunderstanding, I didn't come to you today to talk about this matter. Snort. But Momosagi couldn't believe it. Suddenly, he huddled in the corner with a vigilant expression, and then looked straight at Lin Yan with the eyes of a heartless man. Lin Yan began to feel that he had a toothache. After scratching his head helplessly, Lin Yan simply spoke frankly. In short, it's not what you misunderstood. I came to you this time with the intention of letting you join my pirate group. After all, you have seen Marine's face, so I think there is a chance. Lin Yan said frankly to Momosagi. After all, Momosagi didn't believe it. After all, it's been like that before. Do you dare to say that you don't have any ideas? But look into Lin Yan's sincere eyes. Momosagi couldn't help but fell silent. I'm Marine. Finally, after hesitating for a long time, Momosagi tilted his head slightly and said this. Lin Yan, on the other hand, had a happy expression. Have the opportunity. Seeing that Momosagi's performance was obviously not as straightforward as she said, Lin Yan immediately put on a serious expression and said. But if I'm not mistaken, your allegiance should be to justice and not Marine, right? Momosagi immediately stopped talking. As Lin Yan expected, Marine's previous betrayal was like a thorn in Momosagi's heart that could not be erased no matter what. Regardless of Akainu's despicableness, or do the rest of the people he regards as his companions obey orders? All caused great harm to Momosagi. Whatever the reason, if it's wrong, it's wrong. In that situation, even if someone spoke for him, even if he just yelled, Momosagi would not be so disappointed. But the fact is no, they all just chose to ignore it with a little disgust. No matter the many powerful men or the ordinary marine soldiers, no actual actions were taken to prevent Akainu's betrayal. How could Momosagi not mind? Seeing the sad expression on the girl's face, Lin Yan smiled softly. So join us. Lin Yan looked at Momosagi very sincerely. I admire your courage, so I sincerely extend an invitation to you. I won't be like those Marines who promise to bring you the justice you want, but at least with me, I promise that you will never be betrayed by one of your own. Lin Yan knows. If you want to impress the Momosagi in front of you, you must never lie. The girl in front of her was at her most sensitive and hesitant time. Any lie will lead to failure, so Lin Yan chose to speak out. He will not bring so-called justice to Momosagi, nor will he promise the girl anything about it. But as long as it's here, Momosagi will never be betrayed. This is the condition Lin Yan offered to Momosagi. Compared to Marine, who is full of justice and morality, not all the people on his ship are good people, but everyone on his ship is a true companion and family. Momosagi fell silent. His eyes slowly became a little moved and wavered, and Momosagi looked at the man in front of him with wavering eyes. When he was most lost and desperate, Lin Yan chose to save himself. Now he has made a promise that he will never betray himself. Momosagi could see that Lin Yan was serious. His eyes were different from everyone he had seen before. Momosagi didn't know if Lin Yan was a good person, but if it was this kind of look. Thinking about it, Momosagi unconsciously stretched out his hand towards Lin Yan. It's like grasping at the last straw. For a moment, their hands were tightly held together. Momosagi's pretty face couldn't help but have a sweet smile. You really won't betray me? unless I die one day. Okay. I believe you. Momoshagi nodded heavily, choosing to believe the man in front of him for the last time. No matter what happens next, Momoshagi recognized her. Some people say that the essence of life is actually the continuity of choices, so choosing to board Lin Yan's ship at this moment is Momosagi's choice. Seeing Momosagi's resolute look in his eyes, Lin Yan also laughed. Then follow me to join the banquet. It's hard to recruit new members. There are many people you need to know. Momoshagi naturally smiled and nodded. I am looking forward. Seeing that Momoshagi agreed, Lin Yan smiled and was about to pull Momoshagi out of the room, but felt the weight on his hand suddenly sink. What's wrong? Lin Yan turned to look at Momoshagi with some confusion. But in the next second, he met the girl's somewhat troubled eyes. Looking at Lin Yan in front of me, Momosagi's pretty face turned slightly red. After hesitating for a long time, he finally said it out loud. What happened before that? Momosagi's eyes flickered when he looked at Lin Yan. What it refers to is naturally obvious. Is there an explanation? Lin Yan was stunned for a moment, and then coughed quickly. Ahem, cough, don't care. It was just a joke before. After all, your reaction was a bit funny. Don't worry, I'm not that kind of person. As he spoke, Lin Yan promised with a serious look. Oh. However, Momoshagi looked obviously disappointed. She said that she was looking forward to Lin Yan's further answer, but Momoshagi couldn't say it directly, so she could only nod it along with Lin Yan's meaning. Okay. Let's go to the party. Momoshagi said this with some disappointment. Anyway, there is still a lot of time in the future, so it's not like there is no chance? Momoshagi thought this silently. Lin Yan looked at Momosagi's reaction a little strangely, but he didn't think too much and quickly led the girl to the banquet. Lin. We've been looking for you for a long time. You're really the one who left without saying a word. I'll punish myself with 3 drinks. Huh? Who is this? When Chaozi and others saw Lin Yan, they immediately laughed and started making noises. But only halfway through his words, everyone was stunned. Looking at Momoshagi, who was pulled behind Lin Yan. Everyone looked strange. One thing to say. Did you start so quickly? Several single dogs even looked at Lin Yan as if they were looking at enemies. Hancock also smashed his armrest with a click. Asked Lin Yan with a very sweet smile on her pretty face. Dear, who is this? So what are your eyes like? Lin Yan glanced at everyone helplessly. You must have met me before, right? Momoshagi is now our new member. Original, that's how it is. Hancock sat down awkwardly. A new member of the crew. That's okay. Thinking about it, Hancock looked at Momoshagi, with a hint of appreciation flashing unconsciously in his eyes. She likes people who are loyal and courageous. Sacrifice one's life for righteousness. It's easy to say. It is difficult to do it, but as a girl, Hancock admires Momoshagi for having such courage. Gu la 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 la. Are you a new crew member, Lin? Why don't you introduce it to us? Whitebeard also laughed with interest when he saw this scene. He knew it. Lin Yan's vision has always been very high. I wonder what's so special about this girl in front of me that Lin Yan can take notice of her. The Whitebeard pirates arrived later. Naturally, he doesn't know much about Momoshagi. That's right. From now on, we will all be companions. Lin Yan smiled and nodded. Then, he talks about the duel between Momoshagi and himself, and the subsequent betrayal of Akainu and everyone in the Whitebeard pirates. Bang. After hearing this, Marco broke the table with a punch. That mad dog. He really is not a son of man. Marco's face was full of anger, and everyone else had almost the same reaction. Being in the Whitebeard pirates, what they hate most is betrayal. Even Whitebeard himself is a little warm and angry. You have been wronged. Whitebeard nodded to Momoshagi. Momoshagi, right? From today on, you are Lin's crew member and a member of our Whitebeard pirates. If you have any grievances in the future, just tell us. Whitebeard said solemnly. Obviously. The courage represented by Momosagi's act of sacrificing his life also moved Whitebeard, and he also understood why Lin Yan was obsessed with Momoshagi. Such a good woman cannot be left alone. Yes. I will definitely kill that mad dog next time I see him. We are all a family. If you have any difficulties, just ask us. Your business is our business. The squad captains also spoke in agreement. Apparently, like Whitebeard, he sincerely approved of Momosagi's joining. Momoshagi looked at this scene somewhat unexpectedly. Originally, when she faced the Whitebeard pirates, she was still a little nervous. She had to know that she, who was once a Marine, was their enemy. But what's going on now? Was he recognized so easily? Momoshagi was a little dizzy, but I couldn't help but feel a little moved inside. Compared to Marine, who is strict in discipline and full of justice and morality, the family-like atmosphere of the Whitebeard pirates is what she needs most at this moment. Thinking. The corners of Momosagi's eyes couldn't help but become moist. Okay. Everyone, stop nagging around the new members and let Momoshagi get used to it. Marco, I heard that you wanted to have a drinking contest with me before? Seeing Momosagi's moved eyes, Lin Yan couldn't help but smile, and then grabbed Marco, who looked embarrassed. Okay, you've become more capable, right? Come. Hurt each other. The men were booing one after another, but Marco did not hesitate and directly brought a table to sit down face to face with Lin Yan, and then the fight between the two men began. Suddenly, the atmosphere of the banquet became extremely lively. Ain and Hancock rolled their eyes at Lin Yan. Then they all came to Momoshagi. Soon, the three women became involved. The entire Nine Snakes Island is filled with a cheerful atmosphere. The large-scale banquet lasted until nearly early in the morning before finally ending. It could be said that the guest of honor had a great time. Of course, in passing, several division captains headed by Marco were then carried out. Lin Yan himself also went back and had a good sleep. By the time I opened my eyes for the second time, it was already afternoon. Lin Yan stretched out happily. Then he yawned all the way and pushed the door open and walked out. But as soon as he went out, Lin Yan couldn't help but be stunned. He looked at the people who had gathered on the dome of the palace at some unknown time and were jumping up and down doing something busy. Lin Yan expressed a question mark on his head. Where am I? Who I am? What are you doing? Looking at the captains who were performing rock climbing like monkeys, Lin Yan hesitated for a moment, but finally couldn't help but ask. Marco, what are you doing? Oh, Lin, you're awake. Seeing Lin Yan appear, Marco immediately used his fruit power to fly down from the roof, showing a hearty smile to Lin Yan. Since you were resting earlier, we didn't bother you. After all, you contribute the most during the battle. As for this, it's what Dad meant. What does Whitebeard mean? Hearing Marco say this with a smile on his face, Lin Yan couldn't help but frown. I really don't understand what everyone is doing. But it didn't make Lin Yan confused for long. Soon, as a flag was hung on the top of the Nine Snake Island Palace, Lin Yan couldn't help but laugh. That's the flag of the Whitebeard pirates, in other words. From today on, Nine Snake Island is the territory of the Whitebeard pirates. Obviously, Whitebeard plans to use force to protect this area. The current Whitebeard pirates include Whitebeard, who has returned to the top, and top players like Lin Yan. Their rise has become inevitable. This flag is not only is it intimidating the Marine and world government, but it is also threatening the big pirates who are used to being domineering. Predictably so. In the future, Nine Snake Island will usher in a long period of peace. Looking at the flag fluttering in the wind, Lin Yan smiled, turned to look at Marco and asked. By the way, where are Hancock and Ain? They. Hearing Lin Yan's question, Marco scratched his head speechlessly, then stretched out his hand to Lin Yan and pointed to the palace behind him. They're all in there, Lin, you can ask yourself. Seeing Marco turning around and flying away, Lin Yan couldn't help but slowly made a question mark, but still walked directly into the palace. Anyway, no matter what happened, just go in and ask. With this thought in mind, Lin Yan opened the door and walked into the hall. Then it was just as I expected. At this time, the three girls Hancock, Ain and Momoshagi are staying together. But it's puzzling. The three girls were gathered in front of the table with concentration on their faces. Hancock was still holding a piece of white cloth in his hand and was making gestures left and right. What are you doing? Lin Yan slowly typed a question mark again and asked rather strangely. It was only then that the three girls noticed Lin Yan's arrival. Hancock immediately had a sweet smile on his face. My dear, you are here. In fact, we are finishing the pattern of another flag. You came just in time. Pattern? Lin Yan tilted his head. The three of us are discussing about the new logo of Nine Snake Island. Ain nodded and said. We plan to raise 3 flags on the palace dome. One is Hancock's Nine Snakes Pirates, the other is the Whitebeard Pirates, and as for the last one. With that said, Ain spread his hands helplessly. Actually, it's about the flag of our 17th Division. Lin, you are the captain, so of course it has to be designed according to you. I think the holy sword from before was good. Hancock immediately responded. Hearing this, Masagi on the other side immediately shook his head. No, I think that giant looks a little more majestic. Ain apparently had different opinions. Aren't dragons in the Holy Grail bad? The three girls each expressed their opinions. By the way, they had been arguing here for almost 2 hours about this matter. Lin Yan was speechless and choked. There's some talk about this strange desire to win, and doesn't anyone think it's a bit strange to hang 3 flags on a palace? Seeing that the 3 girls were planning to continue arguing, Lin Yan shook his head. Just as he was about to step forward and give each of them a blow, the door behind him was pushed open again. Gula la la la. How's your discussion going? The poll for the 3rd flag is ready. I heard that Lin is here too, right? With a hearty laugh, Whitebeard pushed open the door and entered. Obviously he has known about this for a long time. Whitebeard walked up to Lin Yan very cheerfully, first reached out and patted Lin Yan on the shoulder, and then looked at the 3 girls with a smile in his eyes. The relationship is really good. Why did you get involved? Lin Yan looked at Whitebeard helplessly and said, actually bringing the entire Whitebeard pirate group and Hancock to join in the fun. Is it possible that this guy has also rejuvenated his youth? Gu la 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 la, there's nothing wrong with it. Whitebeard laughed again, but soon his expression turned serious. Let's leave this matter alone and let these girls discuss it by themselves. Rather than this, Lin, you have guests coming. Guest? Lin Yan tilted his head strangely. Where did you get these guests? To be fair, aren't the members of the Whitebeard pirates here? They are 2 very special guests. Faced with Lin Yan's somewhat surprised look, Whitebeard nodded solemnly. Mahawk and Doflamingo. Hearing this, Lin Yan was silent for a moment, and then nodded happily. Okay, I'll go take a look. Nodding slightly to Whitebeard, Lin Yan turned around and walked out of the hall regardless of what pattern the 3 Hancocks would eventually design. Not long after, they arrived at the reception room of the 9 Snake Island Palace. As expected, Mahawk and Doflamingo, who had met each other once before, were waiting here early, and were received by Hancock's 2 sisters. Lin Yan narrowed his eyes slightly and looked at the 2 of them. Needless to say, Hawkeye, the world's greatest swordsman, is a well-known strong man throughout the world. Doflamingo on the other side seems to be inconspicuous in Shichibukai. But Lin Yan knows it very well. This guy is already the de facto emperor of the entire underground world. While Lin Yan was sizing up the 2 of them, the 2 of them were also sizing up Lin Yan carefully. Captain of the 17th Division of the Whitebeard Pirates. This man in front of me, already a living legend. Captain Lin. I have heard about his name for a long time, but this time I finally met him in person. Doflamingo was the first to greet with a smile on his face. Shaped like a flamingo. There was an extremely exaggerated smile on his face. No matter who meets Doflamingo in person for the first time, they will definitely get the impression that this guy is a little too weird. Except for a handful of people who really knew him. Few people can understand the exaggerated-looking guy in front of them. No one would even think of it. The Doflamingo in front of him is one of the overlords of the underground world. The vast past also involves a lot. Lin Yan was a little noncommittal about Doflamingo's greetings, and he also guessed the purpose of this guy coming to him. Let's shake Doflamingo's hand symbolically. Lin Yan took the main seat without hesitation. Looking at the 2 people staring at him closely, Lin Yan raised the corners of his mouth and smiled. Dang dang Shichibukai, what do you want from me? Lin Yan said to the 2 of them with a smile. The attitude seemed very open and honest. Foo. I still need to discuss my matters in detail. In short, let's listen to the purpose of the friend next to me first. Doflamingo let out a characteristic laugh. Without hesitation, Xuanji gave time to Mahawk beside him. Lin Yan also looked at Hawkeye, who had been silent. It has the same meaning as the title Hawkeye. The man in front of him had eyes as sharp as a falcon, even to the point where it was impossible to look directly at him. His existence is the pinnacle of swordsmanship in this world. If calculated based on strength alone, throughout 7 warlords of the sea, Mahawk is perhaps the most powerful one. Facing Lin Yan's gaze, Hawkeye's attitude was also very direct. He was not a person who liked to talk much. Can you lend me that sword from before? Hawkeye asked Lin Yan directly. He is a swordsman. He shared his whole life with Kendo. Naturally, the only reason to come to Lin Yan was the sword. Obviously, Mahawk has a keen interest in the holy sword Excalibur, which burst out with powerful power before. Then I couldn't wait to find Lin Yan just after the Buster call ended. As for Doflamingo on the other side, the 2 just met by chance. It's quite his style. It's an unexpected answer. Lin Yan smiled and nodded, with no intention of rejecting Eagle Eye's request. Lin Yan also admired the man in front of him who was dedicated to seeking truth. Just a casual wave. Excalibur appeared in Lin Yan's hand. Take it. Without doubting Hawkeye's intentions at all, Lin Yan handed the Excalibur to the man casually. Seeing this, the Hawk's eyes flashed slightly. Thank you. With a very rare thank you, Hawkeye stretched out his hands and took the holy sword from Lin Yan's hand very solemnly, with a cautious attitude as if he was treating the most precious treasure in the world. After just picking up the holy sword and observing it for a moment, Hawkeye's eyes suddenly lit up. What a sword! As the world's top swordsman, Hawkeye can naturally tell at a glance that the sword in his hand is extraordinary, and it is more than one level higher than the black sword behind him. But for a moment, Hawkeye's eyes became hesitant. With both hands grazing the blade of the sword, Hawkeye hesitated for a moment, but finally couldn't help but look up at Lin Yan. Captain Lin, if I'm right, this sword doesn't seem to be from the hands of a swordsman? Oh. Can you tell? Hearing this, Lin Yan looked at Eagle Eye with some surprise. Can you see this? Hawkeye's guess was of course correct. The holy sword Excalibur was not made by a swordsmith, or even by a mortal. Even among the many noble phantasms, it is almost at the top. It is an extremely rare divine weapon. Lin Yan couldn't help but be a little surprised by the vision of the world's greatest swordsman. It seems that my eyesight has not deteriorated yet. Hawkeye gave a very rare smile. There are no traces of beating or manufacturing on this sword. Even the supreme sharp sword cannot do this. This is the first time I have seen this natural feeling. As he spoke, Hawkeye's tone paused slightly, and then he looked at Lin Yan seriously. Then Captain Lin, can you tell me what this sword is? Lin Yan looked directly at the eagle eye in front of him. There was no greed for treasure in those eyes. Just a simple desire for knowledge, for Mahawk. It is a hope to see a higher realm. So Lin Yan touched his chin and thought for a while, then slowly spit out 4 words. Born and nurtured. For a moment, Hawkeye's eyes slowly widened, and after a while, he finally let out a long breath. Simply unheard of. Even Hawkeye couldn't help but shake his head and sigh. He didn't expect that such a holy sword still existed in the world. Immediately, the man solemnly handed the holy sword back to Lin Yan, and stared at Lin Yan with a pair of hawk-like eyes. I hope to have the chance to fight you, Hawkeye said extremely seriously. As said before, he is a swordsman, and maybe he is the purest swordsman in the world. And when a swordsman saw an incredible holy sword, he also faced a powerful being holding a holy sword with bottomless strength. Needless to say, what choice will be made next? Oh. Lin Yan was not surprised when he saw the sharp eyes of Eagle Eyes. He just looked at the man in front of him with interest. You are now the world's greatest swordsman. Aren't you afraid of losing to me and losing your reputation? Lin Yan asked with a half smile, and Hawkeye's answer was very straightforward. Fame is useless. I just want to see your swordsmanship with my own eyes. What if I'm just relying on the power of this sword? A sword of this level will not choose the Lord of Mediocrity. Hawkeye shook his head slightly. He felt an extraordinary will from this holy sword. It was definitely not something that a mediocre person could control. How could the man in front of him be an ordinary person? And looking at Hawkeye's extremely serious expression and extremely straightforward answer, Lin Yan finally smiled and nodded. Then it's up to you to choose the place. Good. Hawkeye nodded without hesitation and stood up immediately. When the preparations are complete, I will send out the invitation. I hope you will attend the appointment on time. With that said, Hawkeye nodded towards Lin Yan and turned to leave. Now, he has to adjust himself to the best condition. Then rush to the agreed battlefield. He didn't even mean to say hello to Doflamingo beside him, as if this person didn't exist at all in the first place. Mahawk's eyes. There are only swords and swordsmen stronger than myself. If you hear the Tao in the morning, you will die in the evening. He is probably talking about people like him. As the purest swordsman, Hawkeye has always been like this. Foo. Do I witness something big happening? Doflamingo was obviously used to Hawkeye's character, and the expression on his face showed no concern at all. After letting out a series of distinctive laughter again, the man stood up and looked at Lin Yan in front of him with burning eyes. The matter with the first friend has been settled, then it's my turn. To be honest, Captain Lin, I want to make a deal with you. Doflamingo said equally frankly, facing a strong player like Lin Yan. Even he doesn't dare to play tricks casually. We are very interested in the technology of transforming beasts that you showed before, Captain Lin. How to use one word to summarize the extremely complex ingredients of Doflamingo. Former celestial dragons? Underground emperor? Strong? A man who can become a king. All correct, but not entirely correct. In Lin Yan's view, these simple words are far from enough to summarize the person Doflamingo, if Lin Yan is forced to do so. The Doflamingo in front of me is a businessman. And he is also an extremely cunning businessman with big plans. The dark past has created an extremely complicated past for the man in front of him. The will to become the Lord of Darkness points to a huge future for Doflamingo. But at heart Doflamingo is a businessman. He will carefully weigh various chips at both ends of the scale and then make the best choice. At the same time, he is also a pursuer who has been looking for his family. As said before, Doflamingo wants to see the world burn. Then rule its ashes. No matter from any angle, he is a very dangerous guy, but on the other hand, doing business with this kind of person is also quite reassuring. Doflamingo is certainly a hopeless villain, but at the same time, he is also perhaps the most reputable businessman in the world. Lin Yan showed an interested smile on his face. What price can you pay? Lin Yan looked at Doflamingo and asked with a smile. Since it's business. Then you pay and I ship the goods, it's a simple matter. Those transformed monsters are just one-time consumables to him, and he can replenish them at any time with a little money. But for ordinary forces, it is an extremely useful war machine. Lin Yan certainly doesn't mind doing this business. The premise is that Doflamingo can pay itself enough price difference. 1 billion Baileys, how about buying a batch of finished products? So Doflamingo also laughed. It must be said that it is easy to talk to smart people, and Doflamingo did not hesitate to use his chips. He believed in his vision. Naturally, it is impossible to buy technology with just 1 billion Baileys, but as long as the finished product is obtained, Doflamingo is about 50% sure that it can be copied by relying on the talents in his family. 50% is worth a gamble. If you win, you will get the power to produce an army of Warcraft. If he loses, the only loss will be Bailey. The little abacus can be said to be rattling. It should be said that he is an experienced businessman. Lin Yan shook his head with a smile. 2 billion, I will give you a batch of finished products, but I have to remind you that their lifespan is only more than a month. If you do not produce results after 1 month, I will not be responsible for your losses. Lin Yan said calmly to Doflamingo. This is a gamble. 2 billion belly. Compared to the doubled Warcraft army, it is almost negligible, but once it fails, the losses will be heavy. Now it's time for Doflamingo to make a choice. Doflamingo's eyes became a little uncertain. 2 billion belly. Even for him, it is not a small amount. Once it is lost, it may take a long time to replenish it. He is rich, but not a money printer. But if you miss this opportunity. In the end, Doflamingo gritted his teeth, chose to believe in the abilities of the talents in his family, and nodded heavily. Captain Lin, it's a pleasure to work with you. I believe we will have opportunities to do business in the future. Doflamingo smiled and extended his hand to Lin Yan. I hope so too. Lin Yan also smiled and nodded, holding hands with Doflamingo. Both of them laughed tacitly. This is a gamble called business. Of course, Doflamingo didn't know that without the help of the Holy Grail of Netherworld, he might never be able to figure out the secrets in his life. Naturally, Lin Yan would not tell him kindly. After all, who would do a business that was destined to be a loser from the beginning? At this point, the two happily reached a consensus. Logically speaking, once the business was settled, Doflamingo should leave like a hawk, but looking at him, he didn't look like he was leaving at all. Glancing at the holy sword that was resting on the armrest of the sofa, Doflamingo's eyes flashed with a strange color, and he licked his lips unconsciously. For this kind of power, it can even defeat Kaido head-on. Even he is very greedy. Lin Yan burst into laughter. You can't afford this. Foo. Of course I know. Being seen through by Lin Yan at a glance, Doflamingo was not annoyed at all. He just smiled inexplicably and looked at Lin Yan steadily. Captain Lin, if I'm not mistaken, are you short of money? Doflamingo asked Lin Yan, as said before. He is indeed an excellent businessman and careerist. From his previous business, Doflamingo has already smelled a different flavor. Although I don't know the reason, Lin Yan in front of me seems to need a lot of money? Lin Yan didn't mean to deny it. What? Can you get the amount I need? No. Upon hearing this, Doflamingo immediately waved his hand. Although I don't know how much you need, Captain Lin, It's definitely not what I can afford. I still have this self-awareness. Doflamingo said this rather self-deprecatingly, and then paused slightly. But for the sake of our friendship, I have a piece of information here that you might be interested in, Captain Lin. There is one person in this world who can afford Captain Lin the amount you need. Hearing this, Lin Yan raised his eyebrows slightly. Who? Golden Emperor Tesoro, Doflamingo said in a serious tone. Although it's difficult to actually count, that man claims to have 1/5 of the world's Baileys. If even he can't afford it, I really don't know who else. Doflamingo smiled and spread his hands. That's someone who even the world government must treat with courtesy. I don't want to mess with him if it's not necessary, but it's a coincidence. I just made a big deal and am a little short on money. I wonder, Captain Lin, would you be interested in joining me to rob the rich and give to the poor? Sure enough, you Doflamingo or still you Doflamingo. The villain is not joking. Robbery from the rich and giving to the poor? If you want to rob, just say so. Lin Yan couldn't help but laugh a little. However, his attitude was very refreshing. Lin Yan was not uninterested in the Golden Emperor. So in view of this, Lin Yan spoke straightforwardly. I'm 8, you're 2. Make a deal. Regarding the share proposed by Lin Yan, Doflamingo said he had no objections. As mentioned before, he was a man that even the world government was afraid of. Because of his huge wealth, the Golden Emperor's private connections were also very terrifying. When necessary, we can even mobilize the elites of the world government. Just like Doflamingo himself said. Normally, even he would not dare to provoke the other party easily, but now that Lin Yan has joined, Doflamingo thinks he can give it a try. Even if Tesoro is very strong, he can't beat Kaido in a duel, right? It belongs to hugging the thigh. Even if it's only 2%, that's 1/25 of Pele in the world. It definitely far exceeds what I invested in Lin Yan. Most of the time, careers do not invest simply because the losses may be greater. The question of courage doesn't need to be considered at all. If you don't even have the courage to do so, you might as well stop being a careerist and go home to farm. Seeing Lin Yan nodding her head readily, she agreed. Doflamingo once again let out his very representative weird laugh and nodded to Lin Yan. Then I will go back and prepare first. When everything is ready, I will wait for Captain Lin's good news. No problem. As for the things you just ordered, I will have people from 9 Snake Island deliver them in the near future. Lin Yan smiled and nodded. Thank you so much. At this point, the deal between the two has been concluded. Doflamingo obviously had no intention of staying any longer. After greeting Lin Yan, he turned around and left. Is it settled? Not long after Doflamingo left, Whitebeard pushed open the door and asked Lin Yan with a hearty smile on his face. Roughly the same. Lin Yan shrugged. By the way, how much do you know about the Golden Emperor Tesoro, Whitebeard? Golden Emperor. Whitebeard's face turned solemn upon hearing this. He is a very outstanding person. Why do you suddenly ask about this? Whitebeard thought for a moment and slowly answered, then looked at Lin Yan strangely. As a member of the 4 emperors, Whitebeard certainly knew about this man. It's just that this person has never had any contact with the Whitebeard pirates. Whitebeard is a little surprised why Lin Yan suddenly asked this. I can't help it, I'm a little tight lately. Lin Yan spread his hands and said with a smile. The Holy Grail of the Netherworld can be said to be a big moneymaker, not to mention that a bug like the Train of Time has been added to its warehouse. A man who claims to own 1/5 of the world's wealth. Lin Yan expressed great interest. Well, just that kind of interest in massive Baileys. I just don't know how it compares to the wealth that the celestial dragons have accumulated over hundreds of years. Well, as if he didn't expect Lin Yan to give such an answer, Whitebeard was obviously stunned for a moment, and then he could only smile bitterly. Whitebeard knew a little bit about what happened to Lin Yan. But he had no intention of getting to the bottom of it. For Whitebeard, as long as Lin Yan is still the captain of his 17th division, he has complete trust in Lin Yan. After thinking for a while, Whitebeard spoke slowly. Do you need help? No, I can handle it myself. Even if a rich man has fighting ability, how strong is he? Besides, I am more inclined to discuss business with him. Lin Yan said with a smile. No matter who you are, in this chaotic world, there will always be regrets of one kind or another. In this world where the strong are respected. After all, the power of wealth is limited. As far as Lin Yan knew, the man who claimed to own 1/5 of the world's wealth also had regrets that he wanted to recover no matter what. Lin Yan is not a bad person. although Bailey does need to supply consumption. But after all, he is not an immoral villain like Doflamingo. Gu la 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 la, that's good. Anyway, if you have any difficulties, just let us know. We will all support you. I heard Lin Yan say this. Whitebeard didn't ask any more questions. The man in front of him can always bring about miracles, and as a person who has experienced it, Whitebeard knows it very well. So naturally there is nothing to say about what happened next. The next period of time, Nine Snake Island is surprisingly peaceful. The Marines who could always be seen patrolling the surrounding area have almost completely disappeared. After it became the territory of the Whitebeard pirates, even the pirates rarely come here to play in the autumn wind. It is worth mentioning that the news of Buster Call's failure quickly spread around the world as if it had wings. As far as the Nine Snake Island in the Calm Belt, it seems to have become a forbidden area for all forces. Of course, Lin Yan is also happy to see his achievements. On this day, after everyone in the Whitebeard pirates finished handling the follow-up matters, they boarded the Moby Dick and planned to return to the New World. Under Lin Yan's instruction, Fisher Tiger is also preparing to return with them. Lin Yan himself took Hancock, Ain and Masagi with him and boarded his boat leisurely. No way. Originally, Lin Yan planned to go alone. But after the three girls heard about his whereabouts, even the always arrogant Hancock's eyes lit up. Really? As long as you are a woman, you have no resistance to shopping and shopping. As we all know, this is the largest casino in the world. This is the destination of this trip for a few people. Therefore, Lin Yan could only reluctantly travel with Sanmei. He took the three girls onto the bow. Lin Yan turned his head and glanced in the direction of the Nine Snake Island Palace, and couldn't help but smile on his face. Except for the flags of Kuja Island and the Whitebeard pirates. At this moment, there was a flag engraved with the iris and holy sword emblems fluttering in the wind. That is your own flag. It seems that the girls have finally reached an agreement. And I have to say, it's still pretty good looking. At least it's much more pleasing to the eye than the skulls of different shapes designed by those rough old men. Lin. Then I'll take the helm. Seeing Lin Yan's somewhat satisfied expression, Ain couldn't help but smile and raised the eternal pointer in his hand to Lin Yan. This is something Doflamingo specially sent here. The destination is naturally the location of the Golden Emperor Tesoro. According to Doflamingo, by the time the four of them arrived at the Golden Emperor Tesoro's location by boat, as expected, he and his family members had already taken care of everything. What we need to rely on next is Lin Yan's strength. As for his true plan, Lin Yan had no intention of explaining it to Doflamingo. After all, the two of them could not be called friends at all, even to Kakuzu who complimented him. Lin Yan does not feel that he is obligated to discuss with Doflamingo. The strong do not need to reason with the weak. And what method is used in the end depends on the subsequent performance of the Golden Emperor. Seeing Momoshagi retracting the anchor conscientiously, Lin Yan put back his thoughts and showed a hearty smile on his face. Sail away, target the Golden Emperor. Oh. In poets' praises, the sea often represents poetry and distance. But in fact, just sailing is pretty boring. Fortunately, Lin Yan also had three girls as companions, so the whole voyage would not be boring. As the saying goes, beauty is good for food, and that's probably the case. Of course, there are also problems. Bang. What a fool. Looking at the three girls with smiles on their faces in front of him, Lin Yan didn't know what to say for a moment. Why do we have to teach them this kind of thing? Seeing the interesting expressions on the pretty faces of the three girls, Lin Yan could only silently recall what he had done before. The incident started about 3 days ago, as said before. Because simple sailing is quite boring, as a hands-off shopkeeper, apart from practicing swordsmanship with Ain every day, he can only stare at the sea in a daze. So in view of this, Lin Yan taught mahjong to three girls. Then, it became what it is now. I have to say that this game from the East is quite fun. Soon, the three girls were enjoying mahjong. If Lin Yan hadn't occasionally seen Ain confirming the direction of the eternal pointer, he would have really doubted whether the three of them had forgotten their destination, the Golden City. And the scariest thing is, because mahjong is a game that can only be played by 4 people, so in the past few days, she just played mahjong here. Of course, there is a question, is it better to play mahjong with 3 beautiful girls? People are in a very happy mood. Did you lose again? I won't play anymore. By the way, Lin, we will arrive at the Golden City probably this afternoon. Watching Hancock take away Bailey with a smile on his face, Ain sighed helplessly, and then turned to Lin Yan as if he had thought of something. Huh? Is this the time? Hearing this, Lin Yan paused slightly. Yes, after all we have been sailing at sea for almost 2 weeks, right? It's almost time to arrive. Ain nodded his head very seriously, then turned to look at the other 2 girls beside him. We will continue with the mahjong matter later. In short, let's prepare first. Good. Hearing this, the 2 girls nodded immediately and abandoned the mahjong table without hesitation. Hancock walked back to the cabin, while Momoshagi picked up the sword placed next to the table with a solemn expression. Seeing this, Lin Yan nodded with satisfaction. You can play the game anytime, but instead of doing this, let's get down to business. So naturally there is nothing to say about what happens next. After Sanin made some preparations, Lin Yan stood on the bow and squinted his eyes. He didn't have to wait long. Soon, a glittering golden city appeared on the horizon. It almost looks like the entire city is made of gold. Of course, that is impossible, but even so, it looks quite shocking. It can be said that the name of Golden City is well deserved. Here we are. Looking at the huge city in front of him, even Ain couldn't help but tighten his little hand holding the rudder slightly. This is the largest entertainment city in the entire world. It is said that the Golden Emperor himself is also a very first-rate artist. The entire Golden City looks magnificent, like a legendary fairyland. But the 3 people here knew it very well. This city. I'm afraid it's not as beautiful as it seems. Following Ain's movements, the 3 people's boats docked one after another, and not long after, they arrived at the land of the Golden City. Tisk. I suddenly feel a very unpleasant feeling in my body. Just after landing on the land of Golden City, Hancock immediately showed a disgusted expression on his pretty face, as if he hated a certain atmosphere here. Even Ain couldn't help but frown. Lin. These around. Ain frowned and looked at Lin Yan. As a dragon at this moment, her senses are naturally much sharper than those of ordinary humans. Like Hancock, from the moment she set foot here, Ain felt sights almost everywhere. That's right. It's sight. It seems that in this extremely prosperous street in front of you, there is a line of sight watching everyone in every dark corner, which makes people feel a little hairy on their backs. Is it just sight? I don't think so. After hearing Ain's words, Lin Yan's face didn't change much. He just sneered, and then suddenly held the Holy Grail of Netherworld under the surprised gazes of the 3 girls. Buzz. The power of the Holy Grail is activated. The girls who were still a little surprised by Lin Yan's movements opened their eyes wide and looked at the golden airflow that had been absorbed by the Holy Grail at some point. As this? Gold dust? Ain couldn't help but widen his eyes. After all, who could imagine that in this golden city, even the air is filled with fine gold powder, which is impossible to detect with the naked eye. If Lin Yan hadn't noticed it, they might have been tricked from the beginning. After all, the being who claims to be the Golden Emperor is actually a user with the ability of the golden fruit. Thinking of this, the expressions of the 3 girls couldn't help but become a little gloomy. Obviously, this dirty method has annoyed them a little. Don't worry, it's just a small trick. Even if it succeeds, it won't pose any threat to us. The 3 girls looked a little indignant. Lin Yan couldn't help but smile and comfort him. Immediately, as if he felt something, Lin Yan suddenly turned his head and looked at a dark corner of the street. You're already here, why don't you stop hiding there? Hearing Lin Yan say these words, the 3 girls all showed wary expressions on their faces, but immediately, a strange laughter sounded in the corner. Foo. You are indeed Captain Lin. I thought I hid it very well. Doflamingo, whom he hadn't seen for a while, slowly walked out of the dark corner with the same exaggerated smile on his face. Doflamingo looked straight at Lin Yan. His eyes seemed to be looking at some surprise box. After a moment of pause, Doflamingo asked with interest. Those gold powders should be invisible to the naked eye, right? My old friend has always been very proud of this method, but this is the first time someone has seen through it like this. Could it be that Captain Lin's eyesight is also different from ordinary people? Doflamingo asked Lin Yan with some curiosity. The existence that rules this city. He is the man known as the Golden Emperor. He is a user with the ability of the Logia gold fruit, and his ability is to control gold at will. The gold powder floating in the air all over the city is one of his most proud methods. It is completely invisible to the naked eye. Even if some powerful beings came here, it would be difficult to see them without careful observation. Unexpectedly, Lin Yan saw through them at a glance. And what is that weird cup? Looking at Lin Yan in front of him, Doflamingo's mind was full of questions, and he felt that Lin Yan in front of him was becoming more and more mysterious. The various mysteries displayed by Lin Yan. Doflamingo began to feel a sense of danger. The attitude at this moment is of course more cautious. It's nothing, it's just a small prop. Besides, the gold powder all over the city is really too conspicuous for me, isn't it? However, it is a pity that Lin Yan did not mean to explain Doflamingo further. Anyway, it's not convenient to talk here. If it were you, there should be a safe place, right? After casually glancing at the sights everywhere, which were basically gadgets like phone bugs, Lin Yan quickly lost interest and turned to Doflamingo and asked. Fu, of course, come with me. Doflamingo didn't mean to deny it. He just smiled and nodded to Lin Yan, then turned around and led the way. The three of them did not hesitate and immediately followed Doflamingo's pace. Soon, he disappeared into the dark corner of the Golden City. Meanwhile, on the other side, Golden City, core area. Sir, we just discovered something weird. At a certain time, a man dressed like a servant suddenly pushed in the door and spoke respectfully to a certain being sitting in the main seat. The man who was admiring the Golden City under his rule was stunned for a moment, then turned his head with interest. An interesting guest is coming. The man asked in a haughty tone. He is Gilder Tetsolo. The man called the Golden Emperor by the world is the ruler of the city beneath his feet, a supreme being. I am also a top-notch artist, and I am preparing for tonight's performance here. I didn't expect to be interrupted by my subordinates at this moment. You must know that there is usually nothing important and no one will disturb you at this time. Thinking of this, Tetsolo's eyes showed a look of interest. You should already know what he looks like, right? Yes. The attendant nodded immediately, and then carefully took out a document from his arms and handed it to Tetsolo. On it were photos of Lin Yan and others. Oh. Looking at the photo in his hand, even Tetsolo couldn't help but show a surprised expression on his face. The captain of the 17th Division of the Whitebeard Pirates. And this is the Empress of Nine Snakes Island. What are they doing with that guy Doflamingo? Tetsolo couldn't help but frown slightly. Doflamingo came here a few days ago, and of course he knew about it. In a sense, the two of them were still partners. I just didn't expect that he would actually be connected with the famous captain of the 17th Division. It should be said that he is worthy of being one of the kings of the underground world. Where are they now? Slowly putting down the photo in his hand, Tetsolo asked with a frown. My subordinates don't know something. After all, he is Doflamingo's guest, and we can't trace him. Hearing this, Tetsolo nodded. It's normal. When they appear again, remember to tell me. Yes. Seeing that Lord Golden Emperor had no intention of continuing and continued to prepare, the attendant also turned around and left with a wink. The notice has been sent, and next, it depends on what Tetsolo does. What the two didn't know was, on the other side, Lin Yan has brought 3 girls to the secret location prepared by Doflamingo. After briefly glancing at the cadres of the Don Quixote family behind Doflamingo, Lin Yan showed no interest in it. He just took the 3 girls and sat down opposite Doflamingo. It seems that you still have something to do with Tetsolo? Lin Yan asked with interest. Fu, after all, it's understandable for a person like me to have a wider network of connections, right? That Golden Emperor does have some connections with me. Doflamingo didn't mean to deny it at all, and his attitude seemed very candid. Immediately, he explained to the 3 people. In fact, in the early days, Tetsolo, who now rules the world, was just an ordinary person. The golden fruit that gave him strength was originally an auction item of the Don Quixote family. As the fruit of Logia, there are naturally many people competing for it. Even though the gold fruit is not powerful at all among the many powerful Logia fruits. As for how Tesoro finally ate the golden fruit as an ordinary person and became the final winner, and how much suffering and danger he suffered during this period, I'm afraid only he himself knows that. After Tesoro went into hiding, Doflamingo lost news of the golden fruit for a long time. And then until one day, the man came to the door openly and said that he wanted to pay off the debt of the golden fruit. From then on, the two became business partners. After explaining this series of cause and effect, Doflamingo smiled and spread his hands. That's all I know. As I said before, that guy Tetsolo is very good at developing fruits. I don't want to fall out with him easily, so I'll have to rely on you, Captain Lin, from now on. Doflamingo smiled at Lin Yan. Hearing this, Lin Yan nodded slightly. This version is pretty much the same as what I know. But immediately, Lin Yan's look at Doflamingo became somewhat meaningful, and he was silent for a moment before asking with a smile. Is it really okay to betray your partner just for a little Pele? Foofafoof. However, Doflamingo just sneered noncommittally. If this so-called little Pele is 1/25th of the world's Pele, even I can't help but be tempted. Besides, Captain Lin only has eternal interests, but no eternal partners, right? Doflamingo smiled at Lin Yan. In response, Lin Yan shrugged noncommittally. Even businessmen with top reputations will go crazy for huge profits, not to mention that Doflamingo is a gambler. Besides, in this guy's eyes, I'm afraid Tetsolo is not a partner at all, just a valuable chess piece worth using. Doflamingo will make such a choice. It was doomed from the beginning. Okay. I wasn't interested in your reasons at first. I came here just for the gold here. Lin Yan smiled at Doflamingo. So according to your plan, how should we meet the so-called Golden Emperor next? This is simple. Hearing this, Doflamingo smiled and snapped his fingers. But it's not that urgent after all. Captain Lin, it's a rare trip to Golden City. It would be a pity not to take a few ladies to watch a prestigious performance, wouldn't it? Lady. Hearing what Doflamingo said, the faces of several girls around Lin Yan turned red at the same time. Even Hancock is like that. However, the three of them surprisingly did not object, but remained silent. Seeing this, the smile on Lin Yan's face became a little strange, and she couldn't help scratching her head. Okay, then it would be nice to relax for a while. So the matter was decided happily. Naturally, there is nothing to say about what happened next. Under the leadership of Doflamingo, the group quickly arrived at the largest theater in the entire Golden City. Tonight, Golden Emperor Tetsolo will perform here. Even if you look at the whole world, the grand stages in the Golden City are of the highest standard. The Golden Emperor's own performance is even more rare. You can tell just by looking at the expectant eyes of the audience, right? Lin Yan and his party. It's better to come early than to come by chance. Foo. Then Captain Lin, I will go to my box. Please enjoy the rest of the time. Doflamingo smiled at Lin Yan and the three girls. As the head of the Don Quixote family, Doflamingo's reputation is naturally quite high. He actually booked 2 boxes in this world-class theater, which was considered a good reception. After all, a strong person like Lin Yan, even Doflamingo, had to deliberately make friends with him. Doflamingo was quite discerning, and after saying that, he quickly withdrew. Seeing Doflamingo finally leaving, Ain poked Lin Yan's arm with some concern. Lin, is this really okay? What could be the problem? Lin Yan couldn't help but smile. We are all spectators now. Even the domineering pirates will not choose to take action at this time. Why not just follow the good intention of that guy Doflamingo and enjoy the next performance? Lin Yan smiled and touched Ain's head. And even if something happens, won't I still be here? Oh. Feeling Lin Yan's palm on his head, Ain's pretty face couldn't help but blush slightly, and then he nodded his head gently. Hancock and Masagi on the other side watched the interaction between the two and couldn't help showing a somewhat envious expression. Of course, as we all know, girls also want to save face. They would not choose to join in at this time. They didn't keep many people waiting for long. Just as Lin Yan comforted Ain with a smile, the lights on the entire stage suddenly dimmed, and everyone's eyes were attracted to it. Tread. Tap. Tap. Then, in the darkness that filled the place, dots of golden light suddenly appeared. Accompanied by the crisp sound of leather shoes hitting the ground. Under everyone's gaze, the man known as the Golden Emperor finally appeared. This is a tall and handsome guy. Tall and well-proportioned, with a sunny smile on his face. With Tetsolo's appearance, the entire stage gradually became brighter. Good evening everyone. Tetsolo opened his arms, and as he cheered, a huge golden fountain erupted behind the man. All presented as liquid gold. Under the shining golden light, it seemed that the whole world became gorgeous. Seeing this scene, Lin Yan also nodded with some appreciation. This kind of audiovisual effect is already comparable to many musicals I have watched, and is even more gorgeous. Tetsolo is worthy of being a top-notch artist in the world. The audience also burst into cheers. However, under the cheers of the whole audience, Tetsolo raised his hands to signal everyone to be quiet, and then picked up the microphone and announced loudly in his high tone. Everyone. We have a very special guest here today. Even I am a little flattered. Let us give you a grand welcome. Tetsolo raised his hands in an exaggerated pose. The spotlights in the audience danced accordingly, and under Lin Yan's somewhat surprised gaze, they all focused on the box where he was. Welcome Mr. Lin Yan, captain of the 17th Division of the Whitebeard Pirates, to the wonderful Golden City. Everyone in the audience couldn't help but look a little dull when they heard this name. And then the next second, everyone exploded. Holy shit, The captain of Division 17 is here. Am I so blind? Is it really him? Idol? The future 5th Emperor is actually here. Everyone get out of the way. Laozi is going to ask for an autograph. Everyone's eyes became wild. Today, Lin Yan is already a living legend. Especially after the news about 9 Snake Island spread, these pirates almost regard Lin Yan as a god. Most of the pirates who can come to the Golden City for recreation have a certain level of wealth and strength, and are naturally well informed. In short, just worship and that's it. Lin Yan twitched his lips when he saw the explosion under his feet and the people who were all looking at him with admiration. I see. You deliberately put me on the table to prevent me from acting secretly. Lin Yan burst into laughter. Naturally, he saw through Tezzolo's plan at a glance. It was nothing more than deliberately putting himself on the bright side and letting everyone know that he had come to the Golden City, so that everyone here could act as his eyes. Only. Looking at Tezzolo in the center of the stage, Lin Yan's eyes became a little playful. Can you really guard against it? It took a long time for the commotion caused by Lin Yan to calm down. And judging by the atmosphere, it's almost done. Tezzolo started his performance with a smile on his face. It was a very penetrating and beautiful singing voice. Even from the perspective of the extremely demanding Kakuzu, he is comparable to some veteran singers, and Tezzolo lives up to his reputation as a first-class artist. Only. Not sure if it was an illusion, but the three of them always felt that the emotions conveyed in Tezzolo's singing were very special. If singing is the voice of the soul, then Tezzolo at this moment. I always feel like, is that man crying? Girls are always more emotional than men. As Tezzolo continued to sing, Hancock was the first to frown slightly. Although the tune is very cheerful, the lyrics are also very romantic. But I don't know why. Looking at Tezzolo dancing in the field, Hancock just felt. He seemed to be the most hollow and sad person in the world. Even Masagi and I nodded slightly. Apparently, they felt the same way as Hancock. But Lin Yan did not join the discussion of the three girls. Just silently picked up the wineglass. The scarlet red wine contrasted with Lin Yan's inexplicably shining eyes, and he didn't know what he was thinking. The performance went quite well. Accompanied by waves of cheers from the audience, the performance lasted for more than 2 hours before it finally came to a successful end. Amidst the cheers and cheers, Tezzolo left the stage leisurely. Seeing the end of the performance, Lin Yan also stood up. Anyway, let's meet up with that guy Doflamingo first. Of course the girls had no objection and followed Lin Yan's wishes and stood up to leave. However, just when everyone was about to leave the theater, suddenly a waiter appeared outside the door. Lord Lin Yan, Lord Huang Jindi invites you. I wonder if you have free time? Lin Yan was silent for a moment, and then an interested smile appeared on his face. Lead the way. Yes. The waiter nodded with a smile, and soon took Lin Yan and his party for a walk around the gorgeous Golden City. Not long after, they arrived at another gorgeous place. Everyone, we have been waiting here for a long time. The person who came to greet him was a girl with fiery red hair. She first showed a sweet smile to Lin Yan, and then bowed slightly. The meaning is obvious. Lin Yan was also a bold artist, and without any hint of worry on his face, he walked in with the three girls in a swaggering manner. As expected, Doflamingo and Tezzolo were waiting here early. I saw Lin Yan walking in with 3 girls. Doflamingo was the first to put a smile on his face. Captain Lin, are you satisfied with the previous performance? Not bad. Lin Yan nodded noncommittally, squinted his eyes and looked at the huge roulette wheel between the 3 of them, then turned to look at Tezzolo on the other side. This is what you were doing. It's just my little interest. Brother Ming always plays 2 games with me every time he comes over. I wonder if Captain Lin is interested? Tezzolo seemed to smile heartily. Doflamingo also nodded to Lin Yan. This guy only has this hobby. What do you say, Captain Lin? Hearing this, Lin Yan glanced at Tezzolo meaningfully. Who would invite someone to join a gambling game when they meet a stranger for the first time? Interest is fake. I'm afraid it's true if it's a trial. But having said that, Lin Yan was not afraid at all. Under Doflamingo's smile and Tezzolo's somewhat solemn eyes, he sat down casually. It doesn't hurt to try. Okay. Captain Lin is indeed a cheerful person, so let's give it a try. Tezzolo nodded immediately, with a somewhat incomprehensible light in his eyes, and raised his chin slightly to signal the red-haired girl beside him. The girl nodded immediately. Start distributing chips to everyone. Lin Yan's face was calm, and he didn't seem to care about the 2 people around him at all. He just kept throwing chips away at will, but the next result was a bit surprising. No matter how Lin Yan throws out his chips, both are always winners. This is true even if you throw it at the most unlikely number. As time went on, the eyes of Tetsolo and Doflamingo also changed. This cannot be explained by luck at all. Doflamingo's expression became a little solemn as he watched Lin Yan continue to take away the chips from the two of them with an expressionless expression. To be honest, he couldn't understand how Lin Yan did it. And Tetsolo's face had become a little ugly, the man's eyes flickered. While Lin Yan was taking away the chips, he glanced at the red-haired girl next to him. It seemed like he was asking something. The red-haired girl also shook her head in a cold sweat, saying that she was also innocent. She has obviously activated her abilities, but it doesn't work at all. This was the first time that something like this had happened, not to mention Tetsolo. Even the girl herself was starting to doubt life. The situation continues. It wasn't until the last chip in their hands was exhausted that Tetsolo leaned back on his chair as if giving up. Looking at the pile of chips in front of Lin Yan, Tetsolo looked ugly. It's better to see once than to hear for a long time. Captain Lin is really good at it. Tetsolo's eyes were as ugly as if he had eaten a fly. As the being who rules this golden city, for the first time, he felt danger in the man in front of him. It was also the first time there was anyone dare to win so much in front of yourself openly. And I can't see anything wrong at all. Although on the surface he just looked a little ugly, in his heart Tetsolo was about to explode. If he weren't afraid of Lin Yan's terrifying strength. I'm afraid he has already turned his back. The red-haired girl on the other side was already trembling with fear. Knowing Tetsolo, she knew very well that the Golden Emperor was now on the verge of breaking out, and how cruel Tetsolo would be when he broke out. Those of them who are subordinates naturally know this very well. Even Doflamingo had adjusted his sitting posture with an unknown smile. Only Lin Yan's expression remained unchanged. He glanced at the pile of chips in front of him. Lin Yan's eyes did not waver, he just asked calmly. After all, do you know what gambling is? Lin Yan asked the two of them with a chuckle. Tetsolo remained silent, and Lin Yan didn't mind whether he spoke or not. He just yawned to himself. People who are cheated are losers, that's all. As he spoke, Lin Yan looked at the red-haired girl on the other side with interest. If I'm not mistaken, your ability should be to control luck, right? It's a pity that the heat doesn't seem to be home yet.